The Demon's Tongue by Celeste King.
Part of the Humans Fight Back collection.
Humans Fight Back is a collection of stories from the Worlds of Protheka, where the humans, treated worse than the dirt beneath a dark elven boot, finally get their moment.
This is a story about a young woman desperate not to be sold into slavery. So what does she do?
She summons a demon to make a deal. But things don't go as planned for either of them.
If you want to get your hands on the spicy content YouTube simply won't allow, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off on any digital product on the site.
And subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on daily releases of free full audiobooks.
Like this video to show your support. Thanks for listening to Celeste King's The Demon's Tongue.
Chapter 1. Geneva. The musty scent of old parchment fills my nostrils as I frantically flip through yet another tome. My fingers tremble, leaving smudges on the yellowed pages. The flickering candlelight casts eerie shadows across the library's shelves, a constant reminder of the time slipping away. Come on, I mutter, slamming the book shut and reaching for another. There has to be something here. My eyes ache from hours of reading, but I can't stop. Not now. Not when my future hangs in the balance. A soft cough breaks my concentration. I look up to see Mira, one of the younger girls, peering at me from behind a bookshelf. Geneva? She whispers, her eyes wide with concern. You should be in bed. Miss Picket will be furious if she catches you. I shake my head, my long dark hair falling across my face. I can't sleep, Mira. Not when... My voice trails off, unable to voice the horror that awaits me. Mira steps closer, her bare feet silent on the cold stone floor. Is it true? Are they really going to... She can't finish the sentence either. Sell me to a dark elf? I spit out the words, tasting bile. Yeah, it's true. Happy birthday to me, right? Mira's eyes fill with tears. But why? You're not like the others. You're smart and strong and that's exactly why. I cut her off, my voice harsh with bitterness. Miss Picket thinks I'll fetch a higher price, says the dark elves like a challenge. I turn back to the books, my hand shaking as I open another. The words blur before my eyes, a jumble of useless information. Nothing about escaping, nothing about breaking magical contracts, nothing that can save me. There has to be a way, I growl, more to myself than to Mira. I won't let them take me. I won't become some dark elf's plaything. Mira, in her fright, puts away her book and scampers off. That leaves me alone in this library, fighting for answers despite the fatigue that gnaws at my limbs. I slump back in my chair, the weight of my situation crushing down on me. The candle flickers, casting dancing shadows across the dusty tomes surrounding me. My eyes drift to a small, ornate mirror, propped against a stack of books. The face staring back at me is unfamiliar. Hollow-cheeked, dark circles under tired green eyes. Is this really all I am? I whisper to my reflection. Just another orphan, destined to be sold off like an animal. My mind wanders back to the countless times I've imagined my parents. Were they kind? Did they love me? Or was I just a burden they couldn't bear? Doesn't matter now, does it? I mutter, tracing the small scar above my left eyebrow. A memento from my first attempt to escape this place. I can still hear Miss Picket's shrill voice echoing in my ears. You ungrateful little wretch! We took you in when no one else would. Took me in. As if I should be grateful for a life of servitude and the promise of a fate worse than death. I stand up, my legs protesting after hours of sitting. Pacing the length of the library, I let my fingers trail along the spines of the books. So much knowledge, so many stories of adventure and freedom. And here I am, trapped. There has to be more than this, I say to the empty room. I refuse to believe that my entire existence is meant to be this. I pause at the window, looking out at the starry sky. Somewhere out there is a world I've only dreamed of. A world where I'm not defined by the circumstances of my birth or the whims of those who see me as property. I'll find it, I promise myself, my reflection in the glass looking more determined than I feel. I don't care what it takes. I'll find a way out of here, away from the dark elves, away from this life. Inspired, I return to my books. There's an answer in one of these. I can feel it. The thrumming of my heart only grows louder as my fingers dance across the pages, skimming words that hardly register. What if this is all a waste of time? Swallowing hard, I gather all of the books in my hand and start returning them to their rightful places on the shelves. As I slide the last book into place, my fingers brush against something peculiar. Hidden behind the row of tomes, a slim volume catches my eye. Its spine bears no title, just a strange symbol that seems to writhe and twist as I look at it. What is this? I mutter, carefully extracting the book. My curiosity gets the best of me. Adrenaline starts coursing through my veins. The cover is smooth, almost warm to the touch. That bizarre symbol pulses faintly, as if alive. My heart races as I open it, half expecting some sort of trap or alarm. Instead, I find a single page with spidery writing. How to summon a demon, I read aloud, my voice barely above a whisper. A chill runs down my spine. This can't be real, can it? Demons are just stories to scare children, ways of keeping humans in check with tales of horror and violence. But something about this rings true. It radiates an energy that I've never encountered before. I scan the page, my mind reeling. The instructions are surprisingly simple. A few words, a marking on the floor, a small offering of blood, and supposedly a demon appears. This is insane, I say to myself, closing the book. I can't actually be considering this. But as I look around the empty library, at the useless books that have failed to provide any escape, I realise I'm out of options. Tomorrow I'll be sold to a dark elf. What could be worse than that? At least a demon might make a deal with me, I reason, trying to convince myself. It's not like I have much left to lose. My hands shake as I gather the few items listed in the book. A candle, easily swiped from one of the library tables. A small knife, borrowed from the kitchen earlier for protection. And my own blood, the final ingredient. I clear a space on the floor, pushing aside chairs and rugs. The candlelight flickers, casting long shadows that seem to reach for me. This is crazy, I mutter, even as I start to draw the symbol from the book on the stone floor with a piece of chalk. I'm going to get myself killed, or worse. But I don't stop. I can't, because the alternative is unthinkable. I finish the symbol and place the candle at its centre. Taking a deep breath, I pick up the knife. Here goes nothing, I whisper, pressing the blade to my palm. Hissing in a breath, blood oozes out of the wound and down onto the floor. Following the instructions in the book, I draw out the required symbols with my blood, grimacing every now and then at the sting of pain that flashes across my hand. Soon enough, fear and regret fill me. What if this doesn't even work? But what if it does? I take a deep breath, my heart pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. The book trembles in my hands as I start to mumble the words written on the page. They feel strange on my tongue, a language I've never heard before. Vox tenebris, audite me, I whisper, my voice growing stronger with each syllable. Demon ex abysso, veni ad me. The candle flickers, casting shadows across the library floor. I squeeze my eyes shut, half expecting to be struck by lightning or swallowed by the ground. But nothing happens. I open one eye, then the other. The library looks exactly the same. No demon, no magic, no anything. Damn it, I mutter, slumping to the floor. I'm such an idiot. Tears sting my eyes as I stare at the useless symbol drawn in my own blood. Of course it didn't work. Why would it? I'm just a stupid orphan girl playing with things I don't understand. Some escape plan, I grumble, grabbing a rag to clean up the mess. Guess it's back to square one. I start wiping away the blood, my movements angry and jerky. The cut on my palm stings, a constant reminder of my desperation and failure. At least no one saw. A gust of wind extinguishes the candle, plunging the library into darkness. The air grows thick, heavy with an otherworldly presence. My breath catches in my throat as I slowly look up. There, towering over me, is a massive black demon. Its form seems to absorb the darkness around it, making it hard to distinguish where the shadows end and the creature begins. Two glowing red eyes fix on me, pinning me in place. I can't move, I can't breathe. Every instinct screams at me to run, but my body won't respond. The demon's presence is overwhelming, filling the room with an aura of ancient power and barely contained violence. "You called," it rumbles, its voice like gravel grinding against steel. And I have answered. My mouth opens and closes, but no sound comes out. What have I done?
Chapter 2. Calix. You called, and I have answered. I materialize in a dim library, the scent of old parchment and burning wax filling my nostrils. Furniture's been shoved aside, making room for a sloppy array of candles and familiar symbols. Summoned again. How quaint. It's almost amusing how these mortals think they can control beings like me with their pitiful rituals. My eyes scan the room, searching for the fool who dared call upon me. Probably some pompous wizard or desperate dark elf Kuzuth seeking power. But as my gaze settles on a young woman, barely more than a girl, I can't help but raise an eyebrow. Well, this is certainly unexpected. Men are usually the ones who summon me, either in their thirst for power or reckless curiosity. A young human woman sits before me, and I find myself intrigued despite my initial irritation. Long dark hair cascades down her shoulders, framing a slim figure that speaks of both strength and vulnerability. Her eyes are green and large, like precious stones with a gentle glimmer that seems to pierce through the shadows. Her skin is tanned, a testament to time spent under the sun. But what truly catches my attention are the scars lining her body. I wonder how those came to be. Each one tells a story, and I find myself unexpectedly curious about the tales behind them. I can't help but smirk, my interest piqued. This little mortal might prove to be more entertaining than I initially thought. Well, what do we have here? I drawl, crossing my arms over my chest. Playing with fire, are you? The girl's eyes widen, her breath catching in her throat. She's practically trembling, but there's a spark of determination in her gaze that piques my interest. I summoned you, she stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't help but chuckle. Did you now? And here I thought I just decided to pop in for a nightcap. I take a step closer, watching as she shrinks back. Tell me, little one, do you have any idea what you've done? She swallows hard, her fingers twisting in the fabric of her dress. I need help. Please. I don't know what else to do. Help? I repeat, my smirk widening. Oh, darling. Demons don't help. We make deals. We take what we want. I lean in, my voice dropping to a low purr. And right now, what I want is to know why a child like you is meddling with forces beyond her comprehension. The girl's chin lifts, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. I'm not a child. I'm 18. Or I will be tomorrow. 18. I can't help but laugh. To me, you're practically an infant. But please do enlighten me. What could possibly drive someone so young to summon a creature of darkness? She takes a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. I need to escape. They're going to sell me, and I can't let that happen. Now that's interesting. I tilt my head, studying her more closely. Sell you? My. It seems the mortal realm hasn't changed as much as I'd hoped. Then again, you creatures are primitive in your traditions and your endless pursuit of power. Please, she says, clasping her hands together so tightly her knuckles turn white. Please, you have to help me. I'll do anything. Absolutely anything. I raise a brow, suddenly filled with an incredible satisfaction to see this human girl on her knees, begging me so sweetly. It's almost arousing, in a twisted sort of way. The power I hold over her in this moment is intoxicating. I study the young woman before me, her desperation palpable in the air. It's incredible, really, the way she trembles, her eyes wide with fear. I can't help but savor the moment, drinking in every detail of her vulnerability. Her ragged breathing, the slight quiver of her bottom lip, the way her chest heaves with each pleading word. It's a delicious tableau of human weakness, laid out before me like a sumptuous feast. Anything, I drawl, letting the word roll off my tongue. My, such a dangerous promise to make, little one. Are you sure you want to tempt a demon with such open-ended offers? She swallows hard, her throat bobbing. I mean it. Please, I'll do whatever you ask. Just don't let them sell me. I chuckle, the sound low and dangerous. Such conviction. Very well, let's make a deal, shall we? With a flick of my wrist, 3 small, glittering crystals appear in my palm. Their glimmer catches in the moonlight that trickles in through the windows, throwing colorful reflections across the room. These, I say, holding the crystals up, are your key to freedom, but they come with a heavy price. Her eyes lock onto the crystals, mesmerized. What do I have to do? I lean in close, my breath hot against her ear. It's simple, really. You must trap 3 souls within this crystal. 3 lives, bound for eternity. She gasps, recoiling. What? No, I can't. Can't you? I ask, arching an eyebrow. Even if it means your freedom? Even if it means escaping a life of degradation and slavery? Her resolve wavers, and I can see the conflict in her eyes. It's delicious. How? She whispers, her voice barely audible. I tap the amulet hanging around my neck. Whoever wears this will command those souls. They'll be bound to serve, to obey every whim and desire. And you'll give me that? If I do this? I laugh, the sound echoing through the library. Oh no, little one, this stays with me. But perhaps, if you prove yourself worthy, I might consider other arrangements. She bites her lip, clearly torn. I don't know if I can. Then enjoy your new life as a plaything for the dark elves, I say dismissively, turning away. My hands closes around the crystals. I'm sure they'll be gentle. For the first hour or 2 at least. Wait! She cries out, grabbing my arm. The touch sends a jolt through me, and I turn back slowly, my eyes narrowing. The human girl has a lot of boldness, reaching out and touching me in such a way. However, I'm starting to like it. I'll do it, she says, her voice shaking but determined. I'll trap the souls. Just tell me how. I smile, a predatory gleam in my eyes. Excellent choice, my dear. Humans aren't usually eager to partake in such nefarious deeds, but you're different. You're much more audacious than the rest. I watch as the girl's eyes widen, her desperation palpable. Please, she begs, her voice cracking. Tears glisten in her eyes. Tell me what to do. This is my only chance at freedom. I can't mess this up. I can't help but smirk, impressed by her resolve. It's rare to see such determination in one so young. Eager, aren't we? But tell me, little one, where's the fun in simply handing you all the answers? Her brow furrows, frustration evident in the set of her jaw. Fun? This isn't a game. My life is at stake here. I chuckle, the sound low and dark. Oh, but it is a game. Everything's a game when you've lived as long as I have. And you, my dear, are proving to be a most intriguing player. She shakes her head, her long, dark hair swaying with the movement. I don't understand. Why won't you just tell me how to trap the souls? I lean in close, the warmth of her skin radiating off of her body, and her scent. Her delicious scent reaches my nostrils. Because, sweet human, the journey is half the fun. If I simply handed you the solution, where would be the challenge? The growth? She pulls back, her green eyes flashing with anger. Challenge? Growth? I'm trying to save myself from a life of slavery, and you're trying to play games with me. Precisely, I purr, running a finger along her jawline. And what better motivation could there be? If you can't manage, then you know what your fate will be. But don't worry. You'll figure it out, I have no doubt. After all, you managed to summon me, didn't you? Geneva steps back, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. That's different. I had instructions for that. This is impossible. I raise an eyebrow, amused by her outburst. Impossible? You're standing in a room with a demon you summoned. I'd say you've already redefined what's possible. She opens her mouth to argue, then closes it again, clearly at a loss for words. I can almost see the wheels turning in her mind, the desperation warring with her growing frustration. Fine, she finally spits out. I'll figure it out on my own. But when I do, you better hold up your end of the bargain. I can't help but laugh at her audacity. I reach out, depositing the crystals into her weak palm. Oh, I always keep my word, little one. That's the beauty of deals with demons. We're bound by them just as surely as you are.
Chapter 3. Geneva. I jolt awake, my heart pounding against my ribs like a caged bird. Sunlight streams through the small window, painting patterns on the worn floorboards. For a moment, I'm disoriented, the remnants of a vivid dream clinging to my consciousness. What in the... I mutter, rubbing my eyes. The events of last night flood back, a whirlwind of candlelight, strange symbols, and... a demon. No, that can't be right. I sit up, my thin blanket pooling around my waist. The familiar sight of my sparse room greets me. The rickety dresser, the cracked mirror, the pile of mending in the corner. Everything's as it should be. No trace of arcane rituals or otherworldly visitors. Get a grip, Geneva, I chide myself. Demons? Really? But as I shift, something hard presses against my leg. My breath catches as I reach under the covers, fingers closing around 3 small, cool objects. Crystals. The demon's crystals. Oh no, I whisper, staring at the glittering stones in my palm. It wasn't a dream. The reality of what I've done, what I've agreed to do, hits me like a punch to the gut. I've made a deal with a demon. To save my own skin, I've promised to trap 3 souls. The weight of it settles on my shoulders, heavy as chains. Did he even tell me his name? I wonder aloud, trying to recall the details of our encounter. The demon's form in my memory is a blur of darkness and power, his voice a rumble that seemed to vibrate through my very bones. But a name? No, I realise with a start. He never gave me one. Do demons even have names? I muse, turning the crystals over in my hand. The thought of addressing him as "Hey you" or "Mr. Demon" almost makes me laugh, despite the gravity of my situation. A sharp knock at the door makes me jump. I hastily shove the crystals back under my pillow. "Geneva!" Miss Picket's shrill voice pierces through the wood. "Up and at 'em, girl! Your big day's finally here." My stomach lurches. Right, my 18th birthday. The day I'm to be sold off like prized livestock. "Coming, Miss Picket," I call back, my voice steadier than I feel. As I jump out of bed and try to make myself look somewhat put together, Miss Picket bursts into the room anyway. Her eyes are gleaming with an unsettling excitement. I barely have time to smooth down my sleep-mussed hair before she's upon me, yanking me close. I can smell the disgusting perfume she loves and how the stench clings to every thread of her big blue dress. "Come now, Geneva," she chirps, her bony fingers digging into my arm. "Today's the day you've been waiting for." I bite back a retort. Waiting for? More like dreading. "Miss Picket, Hush," she cuts me off, already rifling through my meagre wardrobe. "No time for chatter. We need to make you presentable." She pulls out a dress I've never seen before, all gossamer and lace, leaving little to the imagination. My stomach churns. "I can't wear that," I protest weakly. Miss Picket clicks her tongue. "Nonsense. You should be grateful. Do you know how many girls would kill for this opportunity? To be sold away?" The words slip out before I can stop them. Her hand cracks across my cheek, the sting sharp and sudden. "Ungrateful wretch," she hisses. "Do you know how much I've invested in you? How much coin this will bring?" I stand there, stunned, as she roughly strips me of my nightgown and forces the new dress over my head. The fabric clings to my skin, making me feel naked and exposed. "Now," Miss Picket says, her voice fraudulently sweet once more. "Remember what I've taught you. Silent and submissive. That's what the Dark Elves want. Human women live to please the Dark Elves." She circles me, adjusting the dress here and there. Eyes down, smile demure, and for the love of everything you know, don't speak unless spoken to. She smiles, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Once you're in a Dark Elf's possession, I can't guarantee the punishments that await you if you disobey your master." I nod mechanically, my mind racing. The crystals. I need the crystals. "Miss Picket," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. Might I have a moment to compose myself?" She narrows her eyes, suspicious. "Make it quick." The second she steps out, I dive for my pillow, fumbling for the crystals. My fingers close around them just as Miss Picket's impatient voice sounds from the hallway. "Geneva, we haven't got all day." I slip the crystals into a hidden pocket in the dress, breathing a sigh of relief. Whatever happens next, at least I have this small piece of hope. As I emerge into the hallway, bidding farewell to the small, rickety bedroom that has been mine for so long, Miss Picket lets out a small hum. "Finally," she mumbles. Her bony fingers dig into my arm as she drags me down the hallway. The gauzy fabric of my new dress whispers against my skin, a constant reminder of what's to come. We stop in front of a heavy wooden door, and she turns to me with a saccharine smile that is almost nauseating to look at. "Remember, girl, silent and submissive," she hisses, then throws open the door. The room beyond is a flurry of activity. 2 other young women stand on raised platforms, surrounded by a whirlwind of fabric and fussing attendants. Their eyes meet mine, wide with a fear that I'm sure mirrors my own. "Julia! Margaret!" Miss Picket barks, and both girls flinch. "This is Geneva. She'll be joining you today." She shoves me toward an empty platform, and I stumble, barely catching myself before I fall. As I step up, I get a better look at my companions in misery. Julia, a willowy blonde with haunted blue eyes, offers me a trembling smile. Margaret, shorter and curvier with a riot of red curls, just nods, her jaw clenched tight. "Now, ladies," Miss Picket continues, pacing between us. "You've been prepared for this day your entire lives. You will bring honour to this establishment and pleasure to your new masters. We have a reputation to uphold, and I refuse to let a little wench ruin what I've worked so hard to build." Her words make my skin crawl. I want to scream, to run, to do anything but stand here like an animal being readied for slaughter. But the weight of the crystals in my hidden pocket reminds me that I have a plan. I just need to bide my time. An attendant approaches me, arms laden with cosmetics and hair accessories. As she begins to work, I catch Julia's eye again. She mouths something that looks like help, and my heart breaks. I wish I could tell her it'll be okay, that we'll find a way out of this. But Miss Picket's watchful gaze keeps me silent. Margaret, on my other side, stands rigid as a statue as her attendant fusses with her hair. Her green eyes blaze with defiance, and for a moment, I wonder if she might actually try to make a run for it. "Stand up straighter, Margaret. Keep standing like that and you'll make your back crooked," Miss Picket snaps. "And no one wants a broken, slouching slave." Margaret's shoulders tense, but she complies. As she shifts, I notice a small bulge in her bodice. My eyes widen. Could she have managed to smuggle something in as well? The room falls into a tense silence, broken only by the rustle of fabric and the occasional sharp command from Miss Picket. Time seems to stretch endlessly, as we're primped and polished like prized possessions. Finally, Miss Picket claps her hands. "Excellent. You'll do nicely." She turns to the door. "I'll fetch the transportation. Don't you dare move a muscle." The moment she's gone, Julia lets out a choked sob. Margaret reaches out, grasping her hand tightly. I step down from my platform, moving closer to them both. "We're in this together," I whisper, my voice barely audible. "Whatever happens, I'm sure we'll be okay." Margaret nods firmly, while Julia wipes away a tear. For a brief moment, we're united in our shared predicament, 3 souls against the world. Then Miss Picket's voice echoes down the hall, and we spring apart, resuming our poses like good little dolls. My stomach lurches at the thought of a dark elf owning me, running his disgusting hands over my skin. But then, the demon's instructions echo in my mind, and I'm reminded of what I have to do, what I need to do in order to escape this life of servitude. Capture 3 souls, 3 lives for my freedom. And I'm willing to pay that price if it means escaping the clutches of the Dark Elves.
Chapter 4. Calix. The room buzzes with low murmurs and appraising glances. My eyes lock onto the human girl. She's standing on that damned platform, wearing that pathetic excuse for clothes the human woman named Miss Picket insisted on putting on her body. "Here we have Geneva," Miss Picket announces, her voice oozing with feigned sweetness. "So that's her name?" It sounds melodic to the tongue. 18, strong, obedient, a perfect addition to any establishment. The dark elves lean forward, their greedy eyes raking over her. A wave of jealousy surges through me. The idea of their filthy gazes on her makes my blood boil. But this has to happen. She must go through this. It will make her stronger. "She's got a fire in her, that one of them comments, a lecherous grin spreading across his face. "Indeed," another chimes in. "I can see the appeal." I clench my fists, trying to maintain my composure. If they knew who I was, they'd be groveling. But right now, I'm just another shadow on the wall, made invisible by my own power. I materialize at whim, and right now isn't the best time to do so. "Isn't she a bit scrawny?" a dark elf in the back calls out, causing a ripple of laughter. "Scrawny," Miss Picket scoffs. "She's athletic, nimble. Just imagine the things she can do for you." Geneva's eyes dart around the room. There's fear, but also that familiar resolve. She's stronger than they think, stronger than any of these fools. "And what about her obedience?" another elf inquires, raising an eyebrow. "Never had a more compliant girl," Miss Picket says in a shrill voice that makes me grimace slightly. "Most humans make my skin crawl like this one. She knows her place." Miss Picket continues her pitch, but my focus is solely on Geneva. The way she stands, trying to hold herself together despite the humiliation. It makes my blood simmer. I should be the only one allowed to look at her like this. Enough talk, a particularly impatient dark elf says. Let's start the bidding. Miss Picket smirks, enjoying the power she holds over these pathetic creatures. Very well. We'll start at 10,000. The bidding commences, voices overlapping, each offer higher than the last. My jaw tightens. This is absurd, but the dark elves have been buying and selling humans for the longest time. It's part of their tradition now. And some of them even take humans on as mates. Funnily enough. Though that's a more recent development. The room's atmosphere thickens as the bidding escalates. The dark elves grow more animated, their voices louder, their comments cruder. I lean against a shadowed corner, completely invisible to their eyes. But my attention never strays from Geneva. 20,000! One dark elf shouts, his voice laced with impatience. 25, another counters, eyeing Geneva with a lewd grin that makes me want to unsheathe my claws and rip out his throat. Imagine having her clean your chambers, a third one says, his tone dripping with innuendo, among other things. I'll make her clean my manor with no clothes on. Mark my words, another chimes in, his grating laughter echoing through the room. My breath becomes more shallow as my piercing red eyes never stray from Geneva. The dark elf's vulgarity irritates my nerves, but I remain silent, biding my time. Miss Picket settles the crowd with her sweet words, demanding their attention. I grit my teeth. Where's their dignity? It's pathetic how they drool over a human slave. No wonder their kind is losing respect in the darker realms. 30,000! The first one barks, clearly agitated. I'm not leaving without her. Oh, we'll see about that. The second one sneers, stepping forward. I can outbid you all night. Miss Picket's smile widens. She's reveling in the spectacle, enjoying the power she wields over these wretched creatures. Geneva, on the other hand, stands rigid, her eyes darting to the door, calculating an escape that won't come. Maybe I'll just buy her and keep her for myself, the third dark elf continues, his voice a sickening whisper. I've got a few tricks she might enjoy. Has she ever had some sex from a dark elf before? My vision blurs with rage. I take a step forward, wanting to materialize and take charge of this ridiculous bidding, but I force myself to stop. This isn't the time, and I'd be damned if I let my emotions get the best of me here. 40,000! A voice rings out, cutting through the noise. Silence falls, every head turning to the new bidder. 45! Another one quickly interjects, unwilling to be outdone. 50! The first one growls, his eyes burning with greed. The second bidder, undeterred, raises the stakes again. 60,000. I can't take it anymore. Their voices are a constant reminder of how vile they are, how much they don't deserve her. 70,000! The first dark elf yells, his desperation palpable. Pathetic fools, I think to myself, every last one of them. The bidding continues, escalating to absurd heights. I watch, seething as they throw around sums of coin like it means nothing. All of this for a human. It's somewhat amazing as much as it is disgusting. Maybe I'll teach her some real obedience, the third dark elf sneers. Break that fire in her eyes. Bend her over. Teach her what it means to be submissive. How about that? My blood boils at his words, but I stay composed. Losing control now won't help her, and it won't help me either. It would just show vulnerability, weakness, things I abhor. Come here, you! Another dark elf yells, beckoning Geneva over. With a nod from Miss Picket, Geneva takes a few hesitant steps forward. She gnaws on her bottom lip, a nervous habit that only makes the dark elves around her holler and cheer louder. There you go, he drawls, running his fingers along her exposed skin. You'll do splendidly. You've got some soft skin. You're not used to hard work, are you? Oh, don't be so convinced, Miss Picket interjects. She knows how to work hard. She lives to please. And she doesn't rest until her master is completely satisfied. 80,000 for the girl! Another dark elf yells, clearly impressed by what he's heard. 85,000! Another dark elf shouts, his voice slicing through the tension like a blade. The room falls silent, the other dark elves exchanging looks of frustration and disappointment. The bidder stands at the back, his presence commanding, a dark elf of the highest caste. The envy in the room is almost palpable. Miss Picket claps her hands together, her smile widening. "Sold to the dark elf over there. What is your name, good sir?" "Silas." Long white hair with one slim braid cascading down the strands, dark skin, wearing jewels on his fingers that catch the dim lights of the bidding room. Based on the looks of the other dark elves, he seems to command a silent respect from everyone else. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. The other bidders mutter under their breath, clearly disgruntled at having lost to him. But how can they blame him for their own poverty? The dark elves and their immense egos never fail to amuse me. "Always gets what he wants, doesn't he?" one dark elf grumbles. "Of course," another replies. "No one can outbid Silas. He's already bought another damn human. Why can't he share?" Geneva's shoulders slump, but only slightly. She's holding on, but there's an exhaustion in her features. Fear has a hold on her, and even though I can feel her desire to use the crystals, she's frozen in place. That's not a promising sight for my dear human. Silas steps forward, the crowd parting out of his way so he can reach the platform where Geneva stands. His eyes rake over her with a possessive gleam. "You'll do nicely," he says, a smug grin playing on his lips. "I've got big plans for you." He glances at Miss Picket, gesturing with his hand before turning away. "Make sure she's delivered to my manor by sundown," Silas instructs Miss Picket, who nods eagerly. "Of course, Lord Silas," she simpers. "It's been a pleasure doing business with you." Silas's gaze shifts back to Geneva. "You're mine now, girl. Better get used to it." Geneva's jaw tightens, but she doesn't say a word. Her silence is her defiance, her way of holding on to whatever shred of dignity she has left. I respect that. Miss Picket leads her way, shooing her off the platform and behind some thick curtains. My dear human will learn, one way or another, how to protect herself. She'll need it if she wants to survive in the clutches of these dark elves. As much as I want to help her, I can't. I'll hold back, watch her suffer and relish in her pleas for my assistance. She has hope in me. Trust. But a human should know better than to trust a demon. In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive. Chapter 5. Geneva. Unfortunately, Julia and Margaret weren't brought along with me. Instead, there's a different human girl sitting across from me in this carriage, tears in her eyes as she stares out the window. Her name is Tatiana, and she's not one of Miss Picket's own. She's blonde with kind blue eyes and marks along her arms and legs that are proof that she's been whipped before. The carriage jostles us as it rolls along the cobbled path. Tatiana sniffles, trying frantically to wipe away the tears that keep coming. I can't blame her for crying. The future we're heading into is bleak. "You think it's true what they say about dark elves?" she whispers, her voice cracking. I keep my eyes on the window, the passing scenery a blur. "Depends on which rumours you've heard. Most of them, probably." Her sobs grow louder, and I reach out, grabbing her hand. "Hey, don't fall apart now. We'll figure something out." "Like what? We've been sold." "Well, maybe we can fight back." "In some ways," I mutter, squeezing the hidden crystals in my pocket. The manor looms ahead, its spires piercing the sky like skeletal fingers. We come to a halt, and the door swings open. A servant ushers us out, leading us through a labyrinth of hallways until we're standing before an opulent door. It swings open, revealing Silas, our new master. His eyes are as cold as the ice-covered peaks of the north, and his smile doesn't reach them. "Welcome to my humble abode," he says, voice smooth but devoid of warmth. "You'll find your new roles here quite engaging." Tatiana steps back, her grip on my hand tightening. "What do you mean?" "You'll serve as maids, tending to the household and our esteemed guests," he explains, waving a hand dismissively. I grit my teeth. "And by esteemed guests, you mean those who pay for our company?" His smile widens, showing a hint of sharp teeth. "Precisely. You catch on quickly. You'll be lent out to them as part of your duties." Tatiana gasps, and I can feel her trembling beside me. I force myself to meet his gaze, the crystals pressing into my palm. "And if we refuse?" Silas's eyes glint with a dangerous amusement as he steps closer. Tatiana's grip on my hand tightens, her knuckles turning white. I feel a surge of defiance but swallow it down for now. There will be a time for rebellion, but this isn't it. "Disobedience," Silas begins, his voice silky and menacing, "will result in severe punishment. Understand this. I control every aspect of your lives now." Tatiana's voice wavers. "What kind of punishment?" Silas's smile widens. Curiosity. It's charming, but also dangerous. Let's say a night in the dungeon will make you think twice about defiance, or perhaps a session with the whip. I meet his gaze, refusing to look away. "We're not animals." "True," he says, tilting his head, "but you're commodities, and commodities must be managed." Tatiana's tears fall freely now. "Please, we'll do what you ask. Just don't hurt us." He waves a hand dismissively. "That's the spirit. Compliance will make your lives here much more pleasant. Now, let's get you both settled." Silas claps his hands twice, which prompts a servant to appear, bowing low. "The rooms are prepared, Master Silas." "Excellent. Take them to their quarters and ensure they understand their responsibilities," he orders, turning away from us as if we're already forgotten. We're led down another series of hallways, each one more lavish than the last. Tatiana clings to me, her breath shallow and quick. "What are we going to do, Geneva?" I take a deep breath, trying to steady my own racing heart. We survive. That's our only option. The servant leads us to our quarters, a communal room packed with narrow beds lined up close together. The air smells of sweat and despair, a stench that churns my stomach. Tatiana's hand slips from mine as we step inside, her eyes wide with horror. "Welcome to your new home," the servant says with a hint of mockery. "Get used to it." Human women of all ages sit or lie on the beds, their faces blank, eyes hollow. They barely glance up as we enter. The room is cramped, the beds so close together that moving without bumping into someone seems impossible. "This can't be it," Tatiana whispers, her voice barely audible. I swallow hard, the knot in my stomach tightening. It is, for now. Tatiana sinks onto an empty bed, her shoulders shaking. I can't live like this. I sit beside her, feeling the hard mattress beneath me. Things won't always be bad. She looks up, eyes red and puffy. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I won't let this place break me. You should make sure it doesn't break you too." I squeeze the crystals in my pocket, the only tangible link to the demon who might be my only hope. A woman across from us finally speaks, her voice flat and lifeless. "New arrivals, huh? Don't get your hopes up, this is it." "Thank you for your optimism," I say, sarcasm dripping from my words. She shrugs, her eyes dead. "Just being realistic." Tatiana sniffles. "Is there any way out?" The woman snorts. "Out? You're dreaming. Once you're in for good. unless Silas decides to sell you to one of his clients who are even worse than he is. We hardly have time to settle in before a dark elf servant enters the room, ringing a small bell. The other women stand quickly to their feet. Tatiana and I are slow to mimic their movements, confused by what's going on. "Mealtime," the servant announces, gesturing for another dark elf servant to begin passing out trays to receive the food on. One by one, the dark elf plops down a meagre serving of slop onto each of our trays. I'm the last one to receive a serving. When he gets to me, I grimace at what I'm seeing ooze onto my tray. "These are just table scraps," I remark quietly. "Isn't there anything better?" Surely in a manor as rich as this one, there are better options for us. The dark elf's hand swings out without warning, striking me across the face with a sharp, stinging slap. My cheek burns instantly, the force of the blow sending me stumbling backward. I bite down hard on my lip, refusing to let the tears well up in my eyes. The room falls into a heavy silence, the other women avoiding my gaze, as if looking at me might draw his ire. "You'll eat what you're given," he sneers, turning away and leaving the room without another word. I stand there, frozen for a moment, the sting on my cheek a brutal reminder of my powerlessness. The dark elf's heavy footsteps fade down the hallway, leaving us in the suffocating silence of the small, oppressive room. The other women keep their heads down, too broken or afraid to offer any comfort or solidarity. The air is thick with unspoken despair, a palpable weight pressing down on all of us. Refusing to cry, I swallow down the pain and clench my jaw instead, silently cursing that servant. Tatiana is the first to break the silence, her voice barely a whisper. "Are you okay?" I touch my cheek gingerly, wincing at the tender skin. "I'll survive," I mutter, forcing a bitter smile. "We've got bigger problems than a slap." The woman who spoke earlier, the one with the dead eyes, glances up at me briefly. "You should learn to keep your mouth shut. It'll make things easier." "Easier?" I scoff, sitting down beside Tatiana on the narrow bed. Nothing about this is easy, but I'm not going to roll over and die. Tatiana's eyes are wide with fear, but there's a glimmer of hope in them. "Do you really think we can get out of here?" I glance around the room, taking in the hopeless expressions of the other women. "I think we have to try," I say, my voice firm. "We can't just accept this." One of the older women, her hair streaked with grey, finally looks up. "You're new here," she says, her voice raspy. "You don't understand how things work. Silas is powerful. He's not someone you can defy." I meet her gaze, unflinching. Powerful or not, he's still just one dark elf, and they can be beaten. None of them agree with me, but that's okay. They don't know what I know. Sitting down on my bed, I reach into my pocket and feel at the 3 crystals once more. The demon's crystals, a reminder of my deal with him. Now that I've received a glimpse of what life is like under a dark elf, I'm convinced that this isn't the life for me. I deserve better. And I won't back down until I receive a life that I deserve. With the demon's help, I might just achieve that.
Chapter 6. Calix. I observe Geneva as she scrubs the wooden floors, her movements mechanical and lifeless. The other women scurry about like frightened little creatures, their eyes downcast. It's pathetic, really. But Geneva, there's still a spark in her. I can see it, and I can feel it, even as she tries to hide it. I wait, patient as only an immortal can be, until she's alone in a dimly lit hallway. The other servants have scattered, leaving her to tackle the endless expanse of polished wood. Alone, working hard on her knees. Perfect. Without a second thought, I materialize behind her. The sound of her scrubbing echoes out into the empty hallway. "Having fun yet?" Geneva yelps, nearly dropping her brush. She whirls around, eyes wide as she kneels before me. Her reaction is delicious, fear mingling in those deep green eyes. You're real, she stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. I arch an eyebrow, amused by her disbelief. Did you think you dreamed me up? I ask, my voice a low purr. I'm flattered, but I assure you I'm quite real. I let my gaze roam over her, drinking in every detail of her trembling form. She glances around nervously, her eyes darting to the shadows as if expecting someone to materialize from them. We can't talk here, she hisses urgently. If they catch me... Relax, I drawl, leaning against the wall with casual grace. I cross my arms, enjoying the way her eyes follow the movement. I'll know if someone draws near. That's one of the perks of being a demon. I tap my temple with a smirk. We have a few tricks up our sleeves. Geneva's shoulders slump in relief, but wariness still clouds her eyes. Why are you here? Have you come to check on me? I snort, unable to hide my amusement. Check on you? Please. I'm not your nursemaid. I've got better things to do with my time. I take a step closer, my eyes never leaving hers. I'm here because I'm curious. Tell me, how are you enjoying your new accommodations? Her face darkens, various emotions flickering across her features. It's horrible, she spits out, her voice laced with venom. This place is a gilded cage. I can't help but chuckle at her naivety. Oh, trust me, my dear human. This isn't the worst of it. Not by a long shot. I lean in, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I've heard rumors of humans being subjected to much worse under the Dark Elves. Torture, experimentation, things that would make your skin crawl. So consider yourself lucky. At least here, you've got a roof over your head and food in your belly. Geneva's lips twitch, almost a smile. Then she remembers herself and scowls. I haven't done what you asked yet. The deal is still on, right? The souls... I wave a hand dismissively. All in good time. I'm a patient demon. For now, I just want to see how you're handling things. She hesitates, then blurts out. I don't know how I'm going to trap those souls. You'll figure it out. I've told you this already. There's no fun in receiving all the answers in one fell swoop. At least that's what I think. You're not the one enslaved, she retorts, resuming her cleaning. I watch Geneva's hands as she scrubs, her knuckles white from gripping the brush too tightly. There's a stubborn set to her jaw that I find oddly compelling. You're quite determined, aren't you? I muse, crossing my arms. She pauses, glancing up at me. I have to be. And here I thought humans were all soft and pliable. You're full of surprises, Geneva. Her eyes widen. You know my name? I smirk. I make it a point to know everything about those I make deals with. It's just good business. Geneva sits back on her heels, abandoning her task. Do you have a name? I never asked before. Calix, I reply, surprised by my own willingness to share. And yes, before you ask, most demons have names. Calix, she repeats, testing it on her tongue. It suits you. I raise an eyebrow. Oh? And how would you know what suits a demon? She shrugs, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. Just a feeling. I find myself chuckling. Feelings can be dangerous things, little human. So can demons, I'd imagine, she retorts. Indeed. I slide down the wall, sitting across from her. What else do you want to know about demons? I can see the questions burning in those pretty green eyes of yours. Geneva bites her lip, considering. Are all demons like you? Like me? I lean forward, grinning. Devilishly handsome? Incredibly charming? She rolls her eyes, but I catch the faint blush on her cheeks. I meant powerful, able to appear and disappear at will. Ah, that. I wave a hand dismissively. Some are, some aren't. We have hierarchies just like you humans do. I happen to be rather high up in the pecking order. Is that why you can make deals? For souls? I nod, impressed by her perceptiveness. Exactly. Not every demon has that privilege. Geneva falls silent for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. Her eyes narrow as she focuses on her hands. Then she asks, "Do you like it? Being a demon?" The question catches me off guard. I've existed for millennia, but no one's ever asked me that before. It's all I've ever known, I answer honestly. But I suppose there are worse things to be. Like you. The look in her eyes gives me pause. I'm quite impressed by this human. No one has stared at me like that, not even other demons. What is it about this one? Why is she so determined to rip apart the customs that this world has always known? Just as she's opening her mouth, perhaps to ask me more questions, footsteps start clicking against the floor. They grow louder and louder, catching Geneva's attention. With her eyes off of me, I take the moment to disappear again, watching as Geneva flinches at the sight of one of the dark elf servants who orders around the human slaves in this manner. "Geneva! What do you think you're doing, you stupid human?" She screeches, her eyes narrowing at the girl still kneeling on the floor. Geneva scrambles to her feet, nearly losing her balance. I was just finishing up here, ma'am." The servant's nostrils flare, her eyes narrowing to dark slits. I can practically taste the venom in her voice as she spits out the words. "Finishing up? You've been at this hallway for over an hour. Are you trying to polish the wood right off the floor? Or are you just too stupid to understand simple instructions?" I watch with interest as Geneva's spine stiffens, her chin lifting ever so slightly. Despite the tremor I can see in her hands, her voice remains remarkably steady. "No, ma'am. I just wanted to make sure it was done properly. I take pride in my work even if it's just cleaning floors. The girl's got guts, I'll give her that. It's almost a shame to see such spirit wasted on menial labor. Almost." I lean against the wall, invisible to their eyes but thoroughly entertained. It's fascinating, watching Geneva try to navigate this precarious situation. The fire in her eyes hasn't dimmed, but she's learning to mask it. Clever girl. The servant isn't buying it. "Don't get smart with me, you useless human. I know your type. Think you're too good for honest work, eh?" Geneva's jaw clenches as she shakes her head. "That's not true. Silence!" The servant's hand whips through the air, stopping inches from Geneva's face. "One more word out of you, and I'll have you whipped until that pretty skin of yours is in ribbons. Understood?" Geneva nods, her eyes blazing with barely contained fury. Oh, how I'd love to see her unleash that anger. But not yet. Not here. The servant sniffs, adjusting her immaculate uniform. "Now, get your useless hide down to the kitchens. They need help preparing for tonight's feast, and I won't have you making us all look incompetent." "Yes, ma'am," Geneva mutters, her head bowed. As she turns to leave, the servant calls out, "And Geneva, if I catch you dawdling again, it won't just be a threat next time. Now move." Geneva lets out a small sigh. As she turns around, the disappointed expression on her face makes it apparent that she's looking for someone. Me. I hold back a chuckle. The human wants to see me again. Who would have thought? As much as I'd like to continue our conversation, I remain invisible. I watch as Geneva's shoulders slump as she grabs her cleaning tools and makes her way down the hallway. The disappointment lingers on her face as she turns the corner to leave, much to my pleasure. The human is growing fond of me, I think. What an intriguing turn of events.
Chapter 7. Geneva. By the time I'm done in the kitchens, my hands are sore and my back aches from being hunched over the whole time. But I'm finished. The day is done. Calix had the chance to help me out, and he didn't. I mumble bitterly to myself, wringing my aching hands together. Are all demons as thoughtless as he is? I'm not sure. Making my way back to the quarters, my stomach growls, but I'm not eager for dinner. It'll be another tray full of beige slop that I'm supposed to call food and be grateful for. Dinner time happens in one of the spare dining rooms within the manor, with long dark tables cramped together to seat us all. At least we get to sit this time around. I shuffle into the cramped room, my nose wrinkling at the stench of unwashed bodies and stale air. The other women are already seated on their beds, their eyes downcast, shoulders slumped. It's like walking into a room full of ghosts. "Move it," a gruff voice barks from behind me. I stumble forward, nearly tripping over my own feet. Finding an empty spot at the end of a long table, I slide onto the bench. The sight of the food in front of me does nothing to stir my appetite. "What is this supposed to be?" I mutter, poking at the grey, lumpy mass on my plate. The woman next to me, her face gaunt and eyes hollow, whispers, "It's best not to ask. Just eat it and be grateful." I want to laugh at the ridiculousness of it all, but the sound dies in my throat as I look around. The difference between our meagre meal and the opulence of the manor is stark. Crystal chandeliers hang above us, their light catching on plates that hold nothing but scraps. "Hey," I nudge the woman next to me. "I'm Geneva. What's your name?" She flinches at my touch, her eyes darting around nervously. "Lila," she whispers, so softly I can barely hear her. "Nice to meet you, Lila," I say, trying to inject some warmth into my voice. "How long have you been here?" Lila's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. 3 years, she says, her voice hollow. But it feels like a lifetime. A chill runs down my spine. 3 years in this place. I can't imagine surviving that long. I'm already tired, and it's only been a few days. "Quiet down there!" A dark elf servant shouts from across the room. "No talking during meals!" I clamp my mouth shut, but my mind races. There has to be a way out of this. I think of the crystals hidden in my dress, of Calix and his deal. It's a lifeline, no matter how thin. As I force down another spoonful of the tasteless mush, I wonder what Calix is doing right now. Is he watching? Apparently, he has the ability to do so, but none of us would be able to realise that. Does he care at all about what's happening to me? Of course not, I think bitterly to myself. He's a demon. Why would he care about me? After dinner, Silas's dark elf servants herd us towards the showers like animals. Their eyes linger on each of us, probably waiting for any excuse to slap us or berate us for doing something wrong. I shudder, wrapping my arms around myself. "Any day now, human," one of them snarls, shoving me forward. I stumble, catching myself on the wet tile floor. The shower room is large, but with so many of us crammed in here, it feels claustrophobic. Steam rises, clouding the air and fogging up the mirrors. 5 minutes, a servant barks. "Make it quick." I strip off my grimy clothes, tossing them into a heap on the floor. The crystals are enclosed in my palm, safe from the water. The water sputters to life, lukewarm at best. But it's something. I close my eyes, letting it wash over me, imagining it could cleanse more than just my skin. As I scrub myself down, my mind wanders. I think of Calix, of his piercing red eyes and that infuriating smirk. What game is he playing? And more importantly, how do I win it? "Time's up!" The servant's voice cuts through my thoughts, shrill and annoying. I think of Miss Picket and how she would let us go days without showering if we made her too angry. I grab a threadbare towel, quickly drying off. My brief moment peace is interrupted by Darina, one of the dark elf servants who loves to pick on me for any little reason. She grabs me by the arm, which makes me stumble forward. I grimace, hoping the crystals don't fall out of my grasp. If they do, I'm as good as dead. "Come along, girl. We need to get you dressed," What? I ask. What for? I had clothes over there. Stop asking questions. Darina's grip on my arm tightens as she drags me down unfamiliar corridors. Where are we going? I ask, my voice echoing off the ornate walls. Silence. Darina's face remains impassive, her eyes fixed ahead. Hello? Can you hear me? I scrunch up my nose. Or did your ears suddenly stop working? Still nothing. Great. We stop in front of an intricately carved wooden door. Darina pushes it open, revealing a bedroom that's definitely not mine. The opulence is jarring after days of sleeping in cramped quarters. Whose room is this? I ask, stepping inside. The plush carpet sinks beneath my feet. What's going on? Darina bustles around the room, pulling items from an ornate wardrobe. Her silence is maddening. Fine, don't answer. See if I care. I mutter, crossing my arms. Maybe I can steal her soul with one of these crystals. I wouldn't mind that at all. The only problem is that I have no idea how to do that, which is a shame. She approaches with a bundle of fabric that looks more expensive than anything I've ever touched. I take a step back. Oh no, I'm not wearing that. Where are my clothes? Darina's eyes narrow. She gestures impatiently at the garments. Nope, not happening. I want my old clothes back. Swiftly, Darina's hand lashes out, catching me across the cheek. The sting brings tears to my eyes. Stupid girl. Stop asking questions. Okay, I'm sorry. As Darina helps me into the outfit, I can't help but feel like a doll being dressed up for someone else's amusement. The fabric is soft against my skin, but it leaves little to the imagination. My stomach churns with dread. Can you at least tell me why I'm wearing this? I ask, tugging at the low neckline. Darina's lips twitch, almost like she's fighting a smile. But then her face smooths back into that infuriating mask of indifference. I catch a glimpse of myself in a nearby mirror and barely recognise the girl staring back. The dress, if you can call it that, clings to every curve. It's a far cry from the shapeless sacks we usually wear. This is ridiculous, I mutter, turning away from my reflection. The door swings open with a creak, and my heart leaps into my throat. Silas stands there, his white hair gleaming in the dim light. His eyes, cold and calculating, sweep over me, and I fight the urge to cover myself. Well, well, he drawls, a smirk playing on his lips. Don't you clean up nicely? I clench my fists, nails digging into my palms. The crystals dig deeper into my skin as well. Silas steps further into the room, his presence filling the space. You have your first customer, my dear. Aren't you excited? The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stumble back, shaking my head. No, no, I won't do it. He laughs, the sound harsh and grating. Oh, but you will. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice, I spit, my voice trembling despite my efforts to keep it steady. Silas's eyes narrow. Not for you, not anymore. He reaches out, fingers grazing my cheek. I flinch away, but he grabs my chin, forcing me to look at him. You're mine now, remember? And I say you have a customer waiting. I wrench away from his grip, my skin crawling. I'd rather die. That can be arranged, he says, his voice dangerously soft. But I think you'll find life much more pleasant if you cooperate. My mind races, searching for a way out. The crystals hidden in my palm seem to burn against my skin, a reminder of the deal I made. But how can I use them? I don't even know how they work. Please, I whisper, hating the desperation in my voice. Don't make me do this. Silas's face softens, but his eyes remain cold. My dear, this is what you were bought for. It's time you earn your keep. He turns to leave, and panic claws at my throat. Wait! I call out. I can't. I don't know how to. He pauses at the door, looking back with a cruel smile. Don't worry. Your customer will teach you everything you need to know. The door closes behind him with a final click, leaving me alone with my fear and the sickening realization of what's about to happen.
Rosenfire, our family holds great weight and power in Orthani, and yet I hear whispers.
Do you think he can take him?
There is no way that this could happen.
No, more books. I can't remain locked in this ivory tower a moment longer.
She's perfect. The Baron's daughter must be found.
Julius, we shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
I am not a full dark elf. I do not possess their ethereal beauty. How will I find a mate?
The lowly Baron's son apparently has shown that he has the same gift of fire-wielding as I, if not stronger.
I am the family's dirty little secret. I am not the future of the family. Dukan is.
This world was created from a seed of evil.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, let me go.
If you want to join the poor humans who are bought and sold in the markets on a daily basis, you will find a way to get there.
I am free, and I am terrified.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail. Get seasons 1 and 2 of the Dark Elf series from worldsofprotheka.com.
Protheka's magic is eternal. This series will show you why. Chapter 8. Geneva. I pace the room, my heart pounding against my ribs. The silky fabric of this ridiculous dress swishes with each step, a constant reminder of my horrible predicament. I glance at the door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. This can't be happening, I mutter, running my fingers through my hair. There's got to be a way out. My gaze darts around the room, searching for anything that might help. A window catches my eye, but it's too small to squeeze through. Besides, we're probably several stories up, and I'm not sure I want to die just yet. I clench my fists, feeling the hard edges of the crystals digging into my palm. Come on, Geneva, think. The memory of Silas's cold eyes and cruel smile makes my skin crawl. No way am I letting him or any other dark elf lay a hand on me. Okay, options, I say to myself, trying to keep my voice steady. I could try to fight my way out, but against a bunch of dark elves, not likely. I pause by the mirror, barely recognizing the scared girl staring back at me. The dress hugs my figure in all the wrong ways, making me feel exposed and vulnerable. Seeing myself like this, in this clothing, is nothing short of nauseating. Screw this, I growl, yanking at the fabric. I'm not playing dress-up for anyone. I rummage through drawers and wardrobes, searching for something, anything else to wear. But it's all the same, revealing outfits designed to please someone else's eye. Fine, I huff, slamming a drawer shut. If I can't change my clothes, I'll change my attitude. I straighten my spine, squaring my shoulders. The girl in the mirror looks a little less scared now, a little more defiant. No dark elf is going to hurt me, I say, meeting my own gaze. I won't let them. I open my palm, staring at the crystals. They glint in the dim light, holding the promise of freedom. If only I knew how to use them. For now, I put them into one of my pockets. I'm sure I'll need them soon. Come on, Calix, I whisper, closing my eyes. I could really use some demonic advice right about now. The room remains silent, save for my own ragged breathing. I'm on my own, at least for now. Finally, the moment I've been dreading. The door creaks open, and my stomach drops. An older dark elf stumbles in, his eyes glazed and unfocused. The stench of alcohol hits me before he even opens his mouth. "Well, well," he slurs, leering at me. "Aren't you a pretty little thing?" I back away, my heart racing. "Sir, I think you've had too much to drink. Maybe you should lie down." He laughs, a harsh sound that makes me flinch. "Oh, I plan to. With you." The dark elf lurches forward, reaching for me. I sidestep, my back hitting the wall. "Please don't touch me." "Don't be like that, sweetheart," he growls, closing in. "You know why you're here?" His hand grabs my arm, his disgusting fingers digging into my skin. I try to pull away, but he's stronger than he looks. "Let go!" I hiss, pushing against his chest. "I said no!" The dark elf's face twists with anger. "You little bitch! You don't get to say no!" He shoves me hard and I stumble, nearly falling. Before I can regain my balance, he's on me again, pawing at my dress. "Stop it!" I yell, slapping his hands away. "Get off me!" But he doesn't listen. His grip tightens, and I can feel bruises forming under his fingers. Panic rises in my throat as I realise how quickly this is spiralling out of control. I knee him in the groin, hard. He doubles over with a grunt, but doesn't let go. Instead, he backhands me across the face, the impact making my head spin. "You'll pay for that," he snarls, shoving me towards the bed. I dig my heels in, fighting every step, but he wrestles me down onto the bed. "Help!" I scream, grimacing at the strain on my vocal cords. I'm praying someone, anyone, will hear. "Somebody help me." The dark elf clamps a hand over my mouth, muffling my cries. "Shut up," he hisses in my ear. "No one's coming to save you." I bite down on his hand, tasting blood. He yelps and jerks back, giving me a moment to breathe. "Calix!" I shout desperately. "Calix, please!" But the room remains empty, save for me and this monster of a dark elf. I'm on my own, and the realization hits me like a punch to the gut. The dark elf's hands are everywhere, pawing, groping, violating. I struggle against him, my heart pounding in my ears. In a desperate move, I reach into the folds of my dress, fingers closing around one of the crystals. Its cool surface grounds me for a moment. "Get off me, you bastard!" I snarl, trying to knee him again. He laughs, a cruel sound that sends shivers down my spine. "Feisty little thing, aren't you? Don't worry, I'm going to screw the defiance out of you." As he pins me against the bed, his weight crushing the air from my lungs, I close my eyes tight, focusing on the crystal in my hand. My fingers clench around it so hard I fear it might shatter. Calix's face flashes in my mind, his red eyes glowing with otherworldly power, and for a moment I feel a surge of hope. "Come on," I mutter through gritted teeth, my jaw clenched so tight it aches. "Work, damn you!" I plead silently, desperately willing the crystal to do something, anything to save me from this nightmare. I picture the dark elf's soul, imagining it as a writhing, inky mass pulsing within his chest. In my mind, I reach out, grasping at it with spectral fingers that tremble with effort. I pull with all my might, trying to yank it from his body and into the crystal. The strain makes my head throb, but I don't let up. It's my only chance, and I'll be damned if I don't fight with everything I have. Nothing happens. The dark elf's hot breath is on my neck. "Stop squirming, little bitch. You're making this harder than it needs to be," he growls. Panic claws its way up my throat, threatening to choke me. I grip my teeth and concentrate harder, picturing the dark elf's soul being sucked into the crystal like water down a drain. I can almost see it, a swirling vortex of darkness being pulled away from his body. But still, nothing happens. "Please," I whisper, my voice barely audible even to my own ears. I'm not sure if I'm begging the crystal, some higher power, or just the universe itself. "Please work. I need you to work." The dark elf's hot, rough hands fumble with the straps of my dress, his fingers brushing against my skin and making me shudder with revulsion. I squeeze the crystal so hard it bites into my palm, the sharp edges drawing blood. The pain grounds me, reminds me that I'm still fighting. I won't give up, not while I still have breath in my body. And then, suddenly, the dark elf makes a strange noise. It's a gargling sound, like he's choking on something. His grip on me loosens, and the weight pushing itself on my body disappears. "What the?" he sputters, stumbling back. I open my eyes to see him clutching at his throat, eyes wide with panic. A faint, silvery mist seems to be seeping from his mouth, nose, and eyes. Holy crap, I breathe, watching in horrified fascination as the mist streams towards the crystal in my hand. The dark elf collapses to his knees, still making that awful choking sound. His skin turns ashen, his eyes rolling back in his head. "What's happening?" I ask, but there's no one to answer. The dark elf's body crumples to the ground with a sickening thud, his eyes wide and empty. I stare at the lifeless form, my heart pounding hard in my ears. The crystal in my hand pulses with an eerie warmth, and I swear I can hear a faint whisper coming from within. Holy hell, crap, I breathe, my voice barely audible. Did I just kill him? I stumble back, my legs hitting the edge of the bed. I sit down hard, unable to tear my eyes away from the body. The reality of what just happened crashes over me suddenly. There should be some remorse in taking someone's soul. But right now, I feel relieved, amazed even, thrilled that I have this sort of power. And now that sick bastard soul thrums gently in my palm, within the crystal Calix gave me. Maybe stealing souls isn't too bad of a task after all.
Chapter 9. Calix. I observe with amusement as Geneva successfully traps the soul of the drunken dark elf into the crystal. I'm quite impressed with my dear human. Look at how far she's come. From a scared little thing, desperately begging me to help her, to a young woman swindling a dark elf's soul and depositing it into my crystal. A sickening satisfaction fills me. In a way, she feels like my protégé. Once the dark elf's body crumples to the floor, I casually materialize in the room, lounging on the lavish bed as if I belong there. She sits on the edge of the bed, breathing heavily, her eyes never leaving the limp body. "Look who's embracing her darker side," I drawl, a smirk playing on my lips. Geneva whirls around, her green eyes wide. Her chest heaves with rapid breaths, the revealing garments accentuating her figure in a way that's hard to ignore. I don't try to hide the way my eyes trail down her curves. "You!" she hisses, clutching the crystal tightly. "Where were you? I could have... He almost..." I wave a dismissive hand, but he didn't. "And now you've got your first soul. Congratulations." She glares at me, those green eyes of hers practically sparking with fury. "You were watching the whole time, weren't you?" "Guilty as charged," I admit, not bothering to hide my amusement with the situation. "I had to see if you had it in you, and I must say, I'm pleasantly surprised." Geneva's jaw clenches. "You're a bastard." "Demon, actually," I correct her, sitting up on the bed. "But I'll take the compliment." I watch as Geneva's eyes narrow, her chest heaving with each angry breath. The fury radiating off of her is palpable, and I can't help but find it deliciously entertaining. I can't believe you," she hisses, her fist clenching the bedsheets underneath us. "You didn't lift a finger to help me. I called out for your help." I raise an eyebrow, my smirk never faltering. "Oh? I thought you wanted to prove yourself. Isn't that why you summoned me in the first place?" Her knuckles turn white. "Prove myself? I could have been..." She chokes on the words, her eyes darting to the lifeless body on the floor. I hush her, lifting my finger to my lips. Then I lean forward. You handled it beautifully. 1 soul down. 2 to go. That's not the point, she snaps, her voice rising. You left me alone to face that piece of crap? I offer helpfully. She glares at me. Yes, you could have at least given me a clue or something. I thought you abandoned me. Rolling my eyes, I'm slightly irritated by her dramatics. The powerful scent of her fear and anger is intoxicating, though. I'm enjoying it. Listen, my dear human. You wanted out of this situation, didn't you? Well, this is what it takes. I'm not your knight in shining armor. I'm a demon, remember? Geneva's lower lip trembles, but she doesn't back down. I thought we had a deal. I thought you were supposed to help me. And I am, I say, my voice low and dangerous. By letting you find your own strength. You think trapping souls is going to be easy? You think I'll always be there to hold your hand? She flinches at my words, but the fire in her eyes doesn't dim. I didn't ask you to hold my hand. I asked you to not abandon me when I needed you most. Abandon you? I've been here the whole time, watching, waiting, making sure you didn't mess it up. And guess what? You didn't. You passed the test with flying colors. My eyes never leave Geneva's face. I can't help but push her further. Demonhood isn't for the weak, my little human. Did you think we've gotten this far with our notoriety with hugs and kisses? I remark, a teasing glint to my words. If you can't handle trapping the soul of one drunken dark elf, maybe you should stick to being someone else's property. It's safer that way. Geneva flinches, her eyes dropping to the crystal in her hand. The silence stretches between us, thick with tension. I can almost see the doubt creeping into her mind, and for a moment I wonder if I've pushed too far. But then she looks up, her jaw set and her eyes blazing. I can handle it, she spits out. I'm not weak. I lean in even closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating off her skin, so that our noses are nearly grazing. Are you sure about that? Because from where I'm sitting you look pretty shaken up. She doesn't back down. Instead, she relishes in the fire I'm throwing at her, and matching it with some of her own. I'm sure, she replies firmly. I didn't come this far to give up now. A slow smirk spreads across my face. Damn, this human's got a fighting spirit. I like it. Good girl, I purr, letting my eyes roam over her body. I certainly hope you can handle it. Things are only going to get more interesting from here. Geneva's breath catches, her eyes widening slightly. I can see the way her pulse quickens at my words, the way her lips part ever so slightly. The air between us crackles with tension, and not just the angry kind. No, there's something else there too. A spark of excitement, a thrill that courses down my body, down to the spot between my legs. I wonder why this human elicits such a tempting reaction out of me. What do you mean by interesting? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Her gaze flicks down to my lips for just a moment before meeting my eyes again. I can practically taste her anticipation on my tongue. My breath ghosts over her ear. Oh, I think you know exactly what I mean, little human, I purr, relishing the shiver that runs through her body. The question is, are you brave enough to find out? Leaning away, with my fingers gliding along her chin, I savor her reaction. Her cheeks flush, but she doesn't look away. I can handle temptation, she insists, but there's a slight tremor in her voice that betrays her uncertainty. We'll see about that, I murmur, my eyes locked on hers. I have a feeling you're going to be quite the challenge, Geneva. Now hand me the crystal. Her palm opens, revealing the shining stone. I reach out, plucking the crystal from Geneva's trembling fingers. It pulses with a faint, otherworldly glow, the trapped soul within writhing like smoke. Perfect. It's just what I needed. I'll take care of this little problem, I say, nodding towards the lifeless body on the floor. You can enjoy the rest of your night unbothered in these luxurious chambers. Quite an upgrade from your previous accommodations, I'd say. Geneva's eyes dart between me and the corpse, her brow furrowed. And what exactly does taking care of it entail? I smirk, tucking the crystal into my pocket. Best not to ask questions you don't want answers to, my dear. Let's just say our friend here will be indisposed. She shivers, wrapping her arms around herself. The revealing garments do little to hide her discomfort. The rise and fall of her chest call attention to how her buds poke through the fabric. Will you be staying? With me? My eyebrows shoot up in mock surprise. Why, Geneva, are you asking me to spend the night? I'm flattered. I didn't realize you were so eager for my company. Pink spreads along her cheeks, but she doesn't back down. I didn't say that. I don't want to be alone. My tongue swipes along my teeth, brushing over the sharp fangs within my mouth. Admit it. You'd love for me to stay, wouldn't you? To my surprise, she doesn't deny it. Instead, she meets my gaze, her green eyes filled a gentle vulnerability. Maybe I would. Is that so wrong? I chuckle, trailing a finger along her jawline. Wrong? Oh, dear human, you have no idea how deliciously wrong it is. Temptation strikes when you least expect it. But then again, that's what makes it so enjoyable. Geneva swallows hard, her pulse quickening under my touch. So, will you stay or not? I pull back, enjoying the way she leans forward, chasing my touch. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I have a body to dispose of, remember? She nods, disappointment flashing across her face. Right, of course. But, I add, unable to resist teasing her further. I relax against the pillows, somewhat enjoying how they feel against my body. The night is young, and we could have a little fun in the meantime. Chapter 10. Calix. After dragging the Dark Elf's corpse into a different realm and depositing it into the void, I returned to the opulent bedchamber, just like she wanted me to. Geneva's still there, her posture tense as she continues to sit on the edge of the bed. Smart girl. It's done, I announce, sprawling across the bed. The silken sheets feel cool against my skin. Our pointy-eared friend won't be bothering anyone ever again. Geneva's eyes dart to the spot where the body had been. Thank you, she murmurs, her voice barely above a whisper. I arch an eyebrow. What's that? I didn't quite catch it. She clears her throat, meeting my gaze with slight annoyance. I said thank you. For taking care of him. I couldn't stand looking at him anymore. Look at this. Manners from a human. Will wonders never cease? I smirk, enjoying the way her cheeks flush. Though I must say, your aversion to corpses might prove problematic in our line of work. Geneva's brow furrows. Our line of work? I'm not... Aren't you? I interrupt, sitting up. You made a deal with the demon, my dear human. That puts you squarely in my world now. She grimaces, her hand unconsciously reaching for the remaining crystals hidden in her clothes. I feel them pulsing gently underneath the lace fabric. I don't think I'm like you, she insists. I laugh, the sound echoing off the ornate walls. Oh, darling, you're more like me than you realize. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. Geneva's jaw clenches, her eyes flashing with that delicious defiance that has enthralled me since the moment we met. I'm nothing like you, she spits. I'm just trying to survive. And what do you think I'm doing? I counter, rising from the bed in one fluid motion. Survival takes many forms, Geneva, some more entertaining than others. I close the distance between us, relishing the way her breath catches as I lean in. Standing over her, I'm quick to notice how much I enjoy seeing her glance up at me with those green eyes. Speaking of entertainment, I purr. How about we find a more enjoyable way to pass the time? Geneva lets out a shaky breath. She scoots away from me slightly, tugging the dress fabric over her legs. I chuckle slightly, returning to my spot at the center of the bed. Suit yourself. I settle back against the plush pillows, watching Geneva as she fidgets with the hem of her dress. The silence stretches between us, thick and heavy. Finally, she breaks it. I still can't believe I summoned you, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. I arch an eyebrow. Enlighten me. What drove you to such lengths? She takes a deep breath, her green eyes meeting mine. I was left with Miss Picket as a baby, just abandoned on her doorstep. How pathetic, I drawl, but motion for her to continue. Miss Picket always said that she was doing me a favor by taking me in. She used to talk about how no one wanted me, not even my parents, so she was doing me a great kindness. But it came with a price. Her fingers clench on the fabric of her dress. When we turn 18, we're sold to clear our debt, a debt for simply existing. I lean forward, intrigued despite myself. And you thought summoning a demon was the answer? Geneva laughs, a hollow sound. It was my only option. I tried so many things. Believe me, I did everything I could to get out of that situation, but... She trails off, shaking her head. Nothing worked. So you turned to the dark arts, I finish for her. Clever girl. She shoots me a look. Don't mock me. You have no idea what it's like to be powerless, to have your fate decided by others. I can't help but chuckle at that. Oh, darling, you'd be surprised. Geneva's brow furrows. What do you mean? I wave a hand dismissively. Another story for another time. For now, let's focus on your predicament. She nods, her posture relaxing slightly. I know it was a long shot, summoning a demon, but I couldn't just give up. I couldn't let them win. And now here you are, I muse, studying her, making deals with the demon. Geneva's chin lifts defiantly. I'd do it again. What happened to just running away? That seems like the easiest option. Just take a few clothes, some food, and leave. I tried that, she explains gently, but it didn't work, and I paid the price for that. I watch as Geneva shifts on the bed, her fingers toying with the ends of her long, dark hair. There's a moment of hesitation before she sweeps it to the side, revealing the back of her neck. This was my reward, she says softly, for my disobedience. My eyes narrow as I take in the sight. A brand seared into her flesh like she's nothing more than an animal. The mark is crude but unmistakable. Miss Picket's insignia, a permanent reminder of ownership. Crap, I mutter, leaning closer. Without thinking, I reach out, my fingers hovering just above the scarred skin. Can I touch it? Geneva nods, her shoulders tense. I trace the outline of the brand, feeling the raised edges where the skin has healed over. The touch sends a jolt through me, an unexpected surge of... I don't know. I push the feeling aside. Branded like a damn animal, I growl, my voice low and rough with barely contained fury. The sight of the mark on Geneva's skin makes my blood boil. That bitch Picket has a lot to answer for, and believe me, she will. Geneva flinches slightly at my remark, her body tensing under my touch. She frowns deeply, tears gleaming in her eyes, threatening to spill over. An animal, huh? She whispers, her voice cracking with emotion. I shrug, trying to maintain my composure despite the rage simmering beneath the surface. It's true, isn't it? That's how they treated you, like you were less than human. She's quiet for a moment, her gaze fixed on the floor. When she finally speaks, her voice is barely audible. I suppose. The slight defeat in her tone makes something twist painfully in my chest. She's eliciting sympathy out of me. Suddenly, she lets out a big yawn, and she lays on the bed next to me. Next thing I know, she's shifting her body to rest against mine, her breaths evening out as she drifts off to sleep. I'm frozen, my muscles tensed as her body presses against mine. What the hell is she doing? I glance down at her, eyebrows raised, waiting for some explanation, but she's out cold. Her dark hair spills across my chest, blending in nicely with the dark fabric of my shirt. The elaborate neckline of her dress has shifted, revealing the soft curve of her chest. My gaze travels down, taking in the smooth expanse of her thigh where her dress has ridden up. She's a mess of contradictions, strength and vulnerability, innocence and seduction. It's infuriating and arousing. I scoff, shaking my head. Since when do I find humans attractive? They're all the same, weak, pathetic creatures, barely worth my time. But this one, there's something different about her. Something that makes me want to trace the line of her jaw, to feel the silk of her skin beneath my fingertips. Without thinking, I reach out, my hand hovering just above her cheek. Her skin is flushed, warm to the touch. I let my fingers drift down, brushing against the pulse point at her neck. Her heartbeat is steady, calm. She must be exhausted. I let my hand trail lower, skimming over the swell of her chest. Her dress is a ridiculous concoction of lace and silk, designed to entice and titillate. It should look absurd on her, but it doesn't. Instead, it highlights her strength, her defiance. She's not just a plaything, a toy to be used and discarded. She's a force to be reckoned with. And that makes her dangerous. I pull my hand away, clenching it into a fist. What am I doing? This is a human, for Pete's sake. I don't care about humans. I use them, manipulate them, but I don't care about them. But as I watch Geneva sleep, her breaths soft and even, I can't help but admit that maybe, just maybe, I've been wrong. About her, at least. I shift, trying to put some space between us, but she just snuggles closer, her hand resting gently against my chest. I let out a sigh, resigning myself to my fate. It's going to be a long night. You better not drool on me, human, I mutter, even as my arm wraps around her, pulling her close. Her warmth seeps into me, chasing away the ever-present chill. It's not entirely unpleasant. Not unpleasant at all. Damn.
Chapter 11. Geneva. I wake with a jolt, my head spinning as I'm yanked from the warm cocoon of sleep. Darina's sharp voice cuts through the fog in my mind, piercing my eardrums like tiny daggers. Up! Now, girl! You think you can lounge about all day? She barks, her words dripping with disdain. I blink rapidly, trying to shake off the disorientation that clings to me like a second skin. The lavish bedchamber slowly comes into focus, its opulent furnishings a sudden reminder of last night's events. My stomach churns as memories flood back, shame washing over me. Why did I let Calix stay with me? Why did I want him to? Despite myself, my hand instinctively reaches for the warm body I expected beside me, searching for his presence. He would deal with Darina for me, I know he would. But my fingers find only cold, empty sheets. A pang of disappointment shoots through me as I realise he's gone, leaving me alone to face whatever this new day might bring. I swallow hard, steeling myself for what's to come. I'm sorry, I stammer, trying to gather my wits. I rub the sleep out of my eyes, confusion still swirling around my head. I didn't mean to oversleep. Darina's lip curls in disgust. Spare me your excuses. Get washed and dressed. You have duties to attend to. What? Do you think that you're special because the client stayed with you the whole night? Is that what she thinks? I nearly let out an incredulous laugh. I stole the soul out of that disgusting dark elf. And honestly, I should do the same to Darina. However, I'm too frazzled to think about grabbing another crystal right now. As I scramble out of bed, my mind races with thoughts of what happened last night. The crystal, the dark elf's crumpled body, Calix's unexpected company. It all feels like a distant dream. But the lingering warmth in my chest tells me it was real. "Move it!" Dorina snaps, tossing my uniform at me. The coarse fabric feels rough against my skin after the silken sheets. "I don't care how successful your night was. You're still nothing more than a slave here." I bite my tongue, swallowing the retort that threatens to escape. Instead, I hurry to the adjoining washroom, shutting the door behind me. As my back rests against the door, my fingers brush against the hidden pocket where I keep the remaining crystals. I take them out, holding the duo in my palm. They're still here, a small comfort in this nightmare. But using one has left me shaken. Can I really do this 2 more times? I mean, that dark elf deserved it. No one is going to miss him. Finding another 2 bastards to do that to can't be that difficult. Right? Hurry up in there. Dorina's impatient voice carries through the door. Master Silas wants you ready in 10 minutes, and you'd be a fool to keep him waiting. I hear Dorina's footsteps fade away from the bedroom, followed by the resounding slam of the door. The sudden silence is almost deafening. I exhale deeply, my eyes fixed on my reflection in the ornate mirror before me. The girl staring back looks scared, confused, and so very lost. "What's going on with me?" I whisper, shaking my head in disbelief. "Why do I feel this way?" The questions hang in the air, unanswered. My mind is a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, some of which I'm scared to admit I'm feeling. Despite every fibre of my being screaming in protest, I carefully set the crystals on the counter. They glint in the soft light, a reminder of the power I now wield and the choices I've made. With trembling fingers, I begin to peel the dress off my body. The silky fabric slides against my skin, and I shiver, not from cold, but from the weight of what's to come. I turn on the faucet, letting the cool water run over my hands. As I lean over, intending to give myself a quick wash to begin the day, a familiar voice breaks the silence. "Good morning, sunshine." I jerk upright, water dripping down my fingers and splashing onto the counter. Calix lounges against the door, his crimson eyes crinkling with his smile. But there's a glint of something dark in his gaze that makes my skin prickle. My heart leaps into my throat as I realise I'm completely naked, exposed and vulnerable in a way I never wanted him to see me. "What the hell?" I yelp, frantically grabbing for the nearest towel. It's small, barely covering the essentials as I wrap it around myself, face burning with pure embarrassment. "Get out!" "How long have you been standing there?" My voice cracks slightly, betraying my unease. I take a step back, putting more distance between us, my feet slipping slightly on the smooth floor. Calix chuckles, making no move to leave. His eyes rake over me, and I feel exposed all over again despite the towel. Now, is that any way to greet your benefactor?" he drawls, his voice dripping with false concern. I clutch the towel tighter, my knuckles turning white as I grip the fabric. I'm acutely aware of how little it covers, how vulnerable I still am. My skin crawls under his gaze. "Benefactor?" I spit out, anger simmering within me. "You're disgusting! There's nothing beneficial about what you're doing." "Please," he scoffs, waving a hand dismissively. The gesture is so casual, so at odds with the tension thrumming through my body. I've seen countless human forms. Yours is hardly revolutionary. His words sting, even as I tell myself I shouldn't care what this monster thinks. I fight the urge to shrink away, forcing myself to stand tall despite my near nakedness. "That's not the point. You can't just barge in here." "Can't I?" Calix raises an eyebrow, his smirk widening. "I thought our arrangement gave me certain privileges." "It doesn't give you the right to invade my privacy like this," I sputter, the embarrassment threatening to eat me alive. He pushes off the door, taking a step closer. I instinctively back up, my legs hitting the edge of the tub. "Privacy?" Calix laughs, the sound rumbling gently. My dear human, you're in the equivalent of a brothel. Privacy is a luxury you can't afford. His words are like a slap. I flinch, remembering where I am and what's expected of me. The reality of my situation crashes down, stealing my breath. Calix's eyes gleam with dark amusement as he steps closer. I press myself against the cold tile wall beside me, the towel barely covering me. "Oh, Geneva," he purrs, his voice smooth. But his words strike me hard. Do you really think trapping souls is all there is to it? You've barely scratched the surface of what's possible in our world. I swallow down the knot in my throat, trying to ignore the way his proximity makes my skin tingle. His scent makes my head spin. "What do you mean?" I manage to ask, hating how small my voice sounds. He leans in, his breath hot against my ear, sending involuntary shivers down my spine. The human world, with all its petty morals and inhibitions, is holding you back. It's a cage of your own making, trapping your true potential. His words are honeyed poison, seeping into my mind. To truly succeed here, to harness real power, you'll need to shed that fragile human skin of yours. Embrace what you could become. I can't help the shiver that runs down my spine. I'm not fragile, I snap, meeting his gaze defiantly. I shake my head. I'm anything but that. I've survived too much. Calix chuckles, the sound sending a warmth that pools in my belly. Prove it then. Show me you're ready to do whatever it takes. I am, I insist, my voice steadier than I feel. I'll complete any task you set me. On top of trapping souls, I mean. His eyebrow arches, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. Any task? Be careful with what you offer, little human. I might just take you up on that. I lift my chin, refusing to back down. Bring it on, Calix. I can handle anything you throw at me. Calix's eyes flash with something that looks almost like approval. But then, the smirk on his lips grows even wider. Is that so? Calix asks. Of course. I'll do anything you want. I'm not afraid. He hums softly, his eyes trailing over my body. I didn't recognize it before, but it's starting to dawn on me. That's pure lust radiating off of him. And he has me cornered in this bathroom, unable to leave unless I do whatever he says. Then touch yourself.
Chapter 12. Calix. Geneva hesitates, her fingers clutching the towel tightly. Her eyes dart around the bathroom, anywhere but at me. I don't know if I can do this, she admits, her voice barely a whisper. And I don't have much time. Silas, I lean back against the door, crossing my arms over my chest. A smirk plays on my lips. Come now, Geneva. You were bold enough to summon a demon, but you can't handle a simple task like this? I tease, arching an eyebrow. If you can't even touch yourself, how do you expect to trap the other two souls? She swallows hard, her grip on the towel tightening until her knuckles turn white. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She accuses, her voice trembling slightly. I chuckle, pushing off the door and taking a step closer. Immensely, I admit. But that's beside the point. This is about you, Geneva. About your determination and your resolve. I reach out, tilting her chin up so she's forced to look at me. Now drop the towel. Her eyes search mine for a moment before she takes a deep breath and lets the towel fall to the floor. She's standing there, naked and vulnerable, her arms wrapped around herself in a futile attempt to cover up. Good, I murmur, my voice low. Now touch yourself. She hesitates again, her arms still wrapped tightly around her body. I can see the wheels turning in her head, the internal struggle playing out across her face. Geneva's hands tremble as she tentatively begins to explore her own body, her eyes locked onto mine, seeking guidance. I can see the curiosity blossoming in her eyes, the pink flush spreading across her face. She's in uncharted territory, and it shows. We know you want more, and we'll give it to you. Unfortunately, this part of the chapter is too hot for YouTube. Head on over to worldsofprotheka.com for the unabridged, spicy content, plus several bonus extras. Use code YouTube30 for a great deal on all the goods. Back to our story. She scoffs, grabbing a towel to clean herself off. A good look? Really? She mutters, scrubbing at her skin. I shrug, leaning back against the wall, my arms crossed over my chest. What can I say? I like seeing you marked. She pauses, looking up at me with a strange expression. Marked? She echoes, her voice soft. I nod, my gaze locked onto hers. Mine, I say, the word a low growl. You're mine, Geneva. And now everyone will know it. She swallows hard, her eyes searching mine. She's processing, trying to understand the implications of what we've just done, of what I've just said. I can see the gears turning in her head, the questions forming behind those green eyes. Geneva doesn't realize it just yet, but she's crossed the point of no return with me. She won't be able to escape me, not even if she tries.
If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
Forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
But what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine.
Chapter 13. Geneva. Calix sends me one last smirk before disappearing, leaving me in a haze of mixed emotions. I lean against the bathroom wall, my breath still coming in short, sharp bursts. I know that I'm running late to get ready for the day's duties, but I need a wash after that. Turning on the shower, I let out a sigh as I go under. The warm water streams over me, washing away the remnants of our encounter, but not the imprint it left on my mind. Touch yourself, he'd commanded, and I'd done it. Not just because he asked, but because in that moment I wanted to. The memory sends a shiver down my spine, a hint of shame coursing through my body. But then, it's quickly surpassed by an overwhelming empowerment. I satisfied Calix, I think to myself, almost in awe of what I'm capable of. I finish washing up, scrubbing away at my skin. Each stroke of the washcloth feels like a small rebellion, a declaration that I'm not beaten yet. I step out of the shower and wrap myself in a towel, the same towel that I had discarded earlier. I slip into my uniform, a plain dress that feels more like a cage than clothing. I grab the 2 crystals on the counter and slip them into my pocket. As I'm fastening the last button, the bathroom door flies open, nearly hitting me in the process. Darina bursts in, her dark eyes scanning me with disapproval. Honestly, Geneva, she retorts, eyeing me like a predator sizing up its next meal. You look like you've been dragged through a thorn bush and then tossed off a cliff for good measure. I bite my tongue hard enough to taste blood, resisting the overwhelming urge to snap back with something equally vicious. I'm so sick of her and her blatant disrespect towards me. She's had it out for me the moment I stepped foot into this manor. Instead of saying all the venomous words resting on my tongue, I force a neutral expression. I'm dressed, aren't I? That's what matters. Darina's lips curl into a sneer that makes my skin crawl. Barely, she scoffs, reaching out with her sharp nails. She tugs at my sleeve, nearly ripping it in her unnecessary show of force. This seam is coming loose. Shoddy work, just like you. Can't even dress yourself properly. Hey! I protest, jerking my arm away from her grasp, my temper finally flaring. I didn't make the damn uniform. If you've got a problem with it, take it up with whoever's in charge of this place's wardrobe. There's so much money tossed around by the clients, isn't there? Use some for better uniforms. You somehow make it look even worse on the body, Darina replies indifferently. She reaches for my hair, yanking the strands back into a severe bun. Can't have you looking like some wild creature. I wince as she pulls, my scalp stinging. I can do my own hair, thanks. Clearly not, Darina scoffs. She produces a small makeup kit from one of her many pockets, brandishing a brush like a weapon. Now hold still. We need to make you look somewhat presentable. I start, but she's already dusting powder across my face, the fine particles tickling my nose and making me want to sneeze. I try to turn away, but Darina's grip on my chin is strong. Hush, Darina commands, her voice dripping with disdain. Your opinion doesn't matter here. You're just a prop, remember? A pretty little human doll for the customers to play with. Nothing more, nothing less. Her words sting more than the brush scratching my skin, each syllable a barb that digs deep into my pride. After all I've been through, her words still manage to get under my skin. I clench my fists so tight my nails bite into my palms, fighting back the urge to lash out. The anger bubbles up inside me, hot and fierce, but I force it down. I can't afford to lose control, not here, not now. But gods, how I long to wipe that smug look off her face. Darina continues her assault, dabbing red dust on my cheeks and lining my eyes with black powder. There, she says, stepping back to admire her handiwork. At least now you look like you're worth something. I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The face staring back is barely recognisable, painted and primped in a way that makes my skin crawl. It's not me. It's the mask they want me to wear. Perfect, Darina declares, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Now you're ready to earn your keep. I've had enough. My patience, worn thin by endless abuse and degradation, snaps like a frayed rope. I grab Darina's arm, my fingers digging into her flesh with a strength I didn't know I possessed. What is this? I snarl, my voice simmering with barely contained rage. I thought I was here to scrub floors, not play dress-up for your amusement. Darina's eyes widen, shock replacing her usual smug expression. She tries to jerk her arm away, but I hold fast, my fingers digging into her flesh with a strength born of desperation and fury. The fear that flashes across her face only fuels my resolve. Let go of me, you insolent little... No, I cut her off, tightening my grip. A small dark part of me relishes her wince of pain. I'm done being your punching bag. I'm done with the mind games and the abuse. What's the real meaning of this? Where are you taking me? Why are you putting some makeup on me? I dot. Darina grits her teeth, her face contorting with a mixture of pain and rage. Her free hand claws at mine, but I don't budge. I don't have to tell anything to you, little bitch. You're nothing but a slave, and you'll do as you're told. Her words hit me like a slap, but I refuse to back down. I've been pushed too far, and now I'm pushing back. You need to tell me, I hiss, digging my nails into her skin in a way that makes her yelp. Otherwise, I'm not leaving this bathroom. Then we'll both be in a world of trouble. Fine! Darina exclaims, jerking her arm away and stumbling backwards slightly. She huffs out a breath, her eyes darting around nervously. Master Silas wants to see you. My eyes narrow at her sudden change in demeanour. The fear in her voice is palpable, and it sends a chill down my spine. Something's not right. Why do you seem scared? I press, taking a step closer to her. My heart begins to race, anticipating her answer. He was upset. She manages to get out, her voice barely above a whisper. She wrings her hands together, unable to meet my gaze. That's when he asked to see you immediately, and now you've kept him waiting. Her words come out in a rush, tinged with panic. I feel my stomach drop. Silas upset is never a good thing, and now I've made it worse by delaying. I clench my fists, trying to steady my nerves. How upset? I ask, dreading the answer. How the hell am I supposed to quantify that? Darina snaps, letting out an exasperated sigh. I feel the blood drain from my face as Darina's words sink in. Master Silas wants to see me, immediately. My mind races, piecing together the implications. The sleazy old dark elf from last night, his soul now trapped in a crystal. Did someone find his body? Did Calix not dispose of it as promised? What exactly did Master Silas say? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Darina's eyes dart around again, as if expecting him to burst out of the walls. He didn't say much, just that he needed to speak with you urgently. I wasn't going to question him further. My stomach churns. Did he mention why? No, Darina snaps, her fear making her irritable. But I've never seen him this angry. Whatever you've done, you're in for it now. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. Fine. Where is he? In his private study, Darina replies brusquely. Can you hurry up? We've wasted so much time. I don't intend of getting punished for your stupidity. All right. I hold a hand up, just as she reaches out for my arm. I can walk by myself. No need to touch me. I follow Darina through the winding corridors, my heart pounding against my ribs. Each step feels heavier than the last, like I'm walking to my own execution. The confidence I felt earlier starts to crumble, replaced by a gnawing doubt that claws at my insides. What if Calix lied? I mutter under my breath, barely audible. Darina glances back, her eyes narrowing. What was that? Nothing, I reply quickly, forcing a neutral expression. As we approach Silas's study, my mind races. Was I a fool to trust a demon? The very thought makes my stomach hurt. I replay our interactions in my head, searching for any sign that Calix might have deceived me. His smirk, his casual demeanour, his sudden disappearances, were they all part of some elaborate trick? Was I a just helpless pawn all along? Chapter 14. Geneva. Darina leads me through the manor, her steps quick and purposeful. I struggle to keep up, my heart pounding loud in my ears. We turn a corner, and suddenly we're in a guarded hallway. The air feels thicker here, heavier with importance. This is where I leave you, Darina says, her voice tinged with relief. She turns to the guards, two imposing dark elves with faces like stone. They're armed with sharp daggers and spears. Take her to Master Silas. The guards nod, their expressions unreadable. One of them gestures for me to follow, and I fall into step behind them, my legs feeling like dead weights. As we walk, I can't help but marvel at the opulence surrounding us. The corridors are a far cry from the cramped quarters I've been living in. Tapestries depicting ancient dark elf battles line the walls, their threads glimmering in the soft light of enchanted orbs floating overhead. Ornate vases filled with flowers I've never seen before sit on pedestals of polished marble. Quite the setup, huh? I mutter, more to myself than anyone else. The guard to my left grunts. Eyes forward, girl. Master Silas doesn't appreciate gawking. I snap my gaze ahead, but my mind continues to race. What could Silas possibly want? Did he find out about last night? My stomach churns at the thought of what punishment might await me. I killed one of his clients. We pass a series of doors, each more ornate than the last. Finally, we stop in front of one that seems to dwarf the others. It's made of dark wood, intricately carved with scenes I can't quite make out. "Wait here," one of the guards says gruffly. He knocks on the door, then enters. I'm left alone with the other guard, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. I can hear my own heartbeat, loud in my ears. "So," I start, desperate to break the tension. "Do you ever get lost in this place? It's like a maze." The guard's lips twitch, almost like he's suppressing a smile. "You get used to it," he says, his voice softer than I expected. Before I can respond, the door opens again. The first guard reappears, his face impassive. "Master Silas will see you now." I take a deep breath, steeling myself. Whatever awaits me behind that door, I'll face it and come out with my life. I have to. I step into the room, the heavy doors closing behind me with a soft thud. My eyes widen as I take in the sheer opulence surrounding me. Paintings of vibrant colours adorn the walls, their intricate scenes telling stories I can't begin to decipher. Gemstones the size of my fist are casually scattered across ornate tables, catching the light and casting rainbow reflections across the room. The floor beneath my feet is so polished I can almost see my reflection in it. It's a far cry from the cold, hard wooden floors I've been scrubbing for days. I'm so caught up in the contrast between this luxury and my recent squalor that I almost miss the voice cutting through the silence. "Enjoying the view, little human?" I jump, my heart leaping into my throat. My gaze snaps to the source of the voice, and there he is. Silas. The dark elf who bought me, who owns this place, who holds my life in his bejeweled hands. He's lounging in a high-backed chair that looks more like a throne, his long white hair cascading over his shoulders. His dark skin seems to absorb the light around him, making the numerous rings on his fingers stand out even more. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to..." "Stare?" He smirks, raising an eyebrow. "It's quite all right. I do enjoy watching newcomers gawk at my humble abode." "Humble?" I almost snort, but manage to catch myself. There's nothing humble about this place. "Come closer," he commands, gesturing with a lazy wave of his hand. I obey, my feet moving almost of their own accord. As I approach, I can't help but notice the way his eyes roam over me, taking in every detail of the outfit Darina gave me. I fight the urge to cover myself. "Do you know why I've summoned you here?" Silas asks, his voice smooth as silk, but with an edge that makes me shiver. "No, Master Silas," I reply, proud that my voice doesn't waver. "I was hoping you might enlighten me." He chuckles, the sound both musical and menacing. "Spirited, aren't you? I do enjoy that in my acquisitions." He stands from his seat, rounding the desk to reach me. He exudes power. It radiates off of him in waves. I hardly have the courage to stare him directly in the eyes. I take a deep breath, willing my voice not to quaver. "If I may ask, Master Silas, why have you summoned me here?" His lips curl into a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. "Curious little thing, aren't you?" He begins to circle me slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. I wonder, do all humans share your inquisitive nature? I can feel his gaze on me, sharp and calculating. It takes everything I have not to squirm under his scrutiny. "I've heard interesting things about you, Geneva," he continues, his voice silky smooth. "Your first night here was quite eventful, wasn't it?" My heart skips a beat. Does he know about the old dark elf? About what I did? "I aim to please, Master Silas," I manage to say, keeping my tone neutral. He chuckles, a sound that sends shivers down my spine. "Oh, I'm sure you do." He pauses behind me, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from his body. "Tell me, how are you finding your new home?" "It's different from what I'm used to," I reply carefully. "I imagine so," he murmurs, resuming his slow circle. You've adapted well, though. Darina tells me you're quite diligent in your duties. There's something in his tone that makes me wonder what else Darina might have told him. I resist the urge to fidget with the hem of my dress. You're a striking creature, Silas remarks casually, stopping in front of me. His eyes roam over my face, lingering on my lips. Those eyes of yours, they're quite captivating. I can see why you've caught the attention of some of our more discerning clients. I swallow hard, unsure how to respond. Thank you, Master, I say finally, the words feeling hollow in my mouth. He reaches out, his fingers grazing my cheek. I fight the instinct to flinch away. I have high hopes for you, Geneva, he says, his voice low and intimate. I think you'll do very well here, very well indeed. Suddenly, his hands find their way to my shoulders, where he sweeps the fabric down my arms. I tense up, my heart beginning to thrum against my rib cage, and I try to stop him, but his grip only tightens on me. The cool air hits my exposed skin, making me shiver involuntarily. My skin prickles with discomfort, goosebumps rising along my arms. Every instinct screams at me to get away, but I'm frozen in place, my mind racing through 1,000 desperate scenarios. I can feel the cold metal of his rings against my skin, a sickening discomfort that makes me tremble under his stare. I force myself to remain still, every muscle in my body screaming to run, to fight, to do something. But I know I can't. I'm trapped here, in this moment, with no escape in sight. I clench my jaw, trying to maintain some semblance of control over my emotions, even as fear threatens to overwhelm me. What are you doing? I ask, my voice barely more than a whisper. He doesn't answer, just lets his fingers trace a path down my arms, leaving a trail of goosebumps in their wake. The sensation is unnerving, like being stalked by a predator. Master Silas, I try again, more firmly this time. What do you think you're doing? He chuckles, the sound low and almost affectionate, but there's an edge to it that sends a shiver down my spine. Just admiring my newest acquisition, he says. I suck in a shaky breath, unsure of what to do next. My fists open and close, wanting to reach into my pocket and grab the crystals, but Silas has his grip on me. With every movement, he subdues me with his strength. I really hate him, I think bitterly to myself. He's the reason why I'm in this horrible situation. If your customer from last night was willing to pay that much and left so satisfied, Silas says, his voice a low purr. I want to know what I'm missing.
Chapter 15. Calix. Silas's fingers curl around the hem of Geneva's dress, and he pulls it away with the casualness of someone unwrapping a gift. My blood simmers, the sight of his dark fingers on her pale skin igniting a surge of anger that threatens to boil over. She stiffens but doesn't back down. I'm not yours to play with, she says, her voice steady despite the fear in her wide eyes. She shudders every time his hand grazes across her skin, each touch making my rage more difficult to contain. Who does he think he is, touching her like this? That's my property. She's mine. Silas's laughter is cold and sharp, cutting through the room like a blade. Oh, but you are. I bought you for a reason, girl. Now show me your talents. She recoils as his hand moves down to her waist, her eyes narrowing with a defiance that ignites something primal within me. No. Her voice is firm, despite the trembling of her frame. The room's atmosphere thickens, tension coiling around us. I can feel my own power stirring, a dark energy that responds to her resistance. Silas's smug grin widens, his fingers tightening on her waist. Silas raises his arm and strikes her on the cheek. The slap echoes through the chamber, and she stumbles, a red mark blooming on her skin. I grip the edge of my hidden perch, nails digging into the wood, an urge to intervene surging within me. But I can't, I remind myself. There's nothing I can do to help her. You'll learn your place, he growls, his tone dripping with malice. He grabs her wrist, yanking her closer with a force that makes my blood boil, the dark energy within me churning. Geneva struggles against him, pushing at his chest with every ounce of her strength. I said no! Her voice trembles but carries a fierce determination that ignites a flicker of admiration in me. His eyes flash with fury once more, and he yanks her arm harder, causing her to cry out. You're nothing but a possession, stupid human. Mine to command. The sooner you learn that, the better. She grits her teeth, tears welling up but refusing to fall. I'd rather die. Silas smirks, leaning in close. That can be arranged. Despite my instincts urging me to intervene, I force myself to stay put. Geneva must handle this on her own to prove her strength. The challenge is hers to face, even if every fiber of my being wants to rip Silas's arm off for touching her. Silas's fingers linger on Geneva's skin, exposing her chest with deliberate slowness. A pang of something unfamiliar hits me, concern for a mortal. It's unsettling, and I tighten my grip on the railing, watching intently. Fight him off, little human. I know you have it in you. You have fire, I'll give you that, Silas says, his voice dripping with condescension. But fire can be tamed. Dark elves have a lot of power, girl. I could crush you with my magic until you're nothing more than a speck on the ground. So what? I'd rather that fate than to give in to you. Geneva's eyes flash with defiance as she lifts her chin up a little higher. I won't be tamed. Silas's laughter fills the room, dark and cruel. We'll see about that. His hands forcefully trail lower, gripping at her waist and pulling her close to his body. I grit my teeth, my jaw clenching. It takes significant self-control to resist stepping in. This is a crucial test for her. She needs to show she's not just another frightened girl. Geneva's eyes flash with fear, but there's a world of fury in those green depths, too. She struggles against his hold, her movements sharp and determined. The defiance in her stance is palpable, a spark of resistance that refuses to be quenched. Her breath comes in short, angry bursts, and I can see the resolve harden in her eyes. Geneva suddenly jerks back, her eyes narrowing. She pushes at his chest, all while he laughs at her. Don't touch me! Silas's expression hardens. He shoves Geneva back until her body hits the edge of his desk. The sight surprises me. He's struggling against the tiny human. And here I thought dark elves were the superior beings? Who do you think you are, human? You don't get to dictate terms here. I'm not your property, she snaps, her voice firm despite the tremor I can see in her hands. I never was. I don't care how much money you spent on me. I am not yours. He grabs her arm, yanking her closer. Fury emanates off of him. You are whatever I say you are. I sense her fear, but also her resolve. She's holding her ground, refusing to be broken. It's almost admirable. Almost. But she needs to act. Silas is right. Dark elves are powerful beings. And I'm not sure how much longer I can withstand this, waiting here in the shadows for her to make the right choice. Stop! She demands, trying to kick him as he pins her against the desk. Stop touching me! Silas's eyes narrow, forcing his knee between her legs to widen them. Or what? Geneva doesn't flinch. You'll regret this, you stupid bastard! With a defiant glare, she spits in his face. His sneer deepens and he wipes away the spit with the back of his hand. It's clear that the audacity of her action fuels his anger. He uses the same hand to slap her again, harder this time. Bold words for a girl in your position, he snarls. I can feel the intensity of the moment building, his rage simmering just beneath the surface. Geneva's resolve is unyielding, even as her cheek reddens from the blow. I grit my teeth, disgusted by Silas's pathetic attempts at trying to subdue her. If he had a speck of the power he says he has, he would have overwhelmed her by now. But he's all talk, no bite. That's unfortunately common amongst most of the dark elf Kuzuth nowadays. Silas forces her onto the ground, pinning her down by the wrists. She lets out a yelp as her back lands on the ground, the wind escaping her lungs. His weight crushes her, and for a moment I consider stepping in. But then I see the spark in her eyes. She's not done yet. "Get off me!" Geneva struggles, kicking and twisting, trying to free her hands. Her eyes blaze with defiance, even as pain contorts her face. "Silence," Silas snaps, tightening his grip on her wrists. "You're mine, remember?" His voice drips with possessive arrogance, a sickening reminder of the power he holds over her. But it's waning. I can tell. I watch, my jaw clenched. The scene is almost unbearable, but I can't tear my eyes away from her. Her spirit is fierce, unyielding. There's something magnetic about her fight, something that calls to me in a way I can't ignore. She grits her teeth, her eyes darting to her pocket. With a sudden surge of strength, she twists her body, managing to free one hand just enough to reach inside. "You'll regret this! I told you!" she hisses, pulling out the crystal. Silas's eyes widen, a flicker of fear crossing his arrogant features. "What are you?" Geneva's focus sharpens on the crystal, her face contorted with fierce concentration. The air around us crackles with an electric intensity, and I can feel the shift in power. Silas's grip falters, his confidence wavering for the first time. "What is this?" Silas gasps, his voice tinged with panic. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," Geneva says through gritted teeth. "Ending you." The crystal glows, casting an eerie light across the room. Silas's eyes roll back, and he claws at his throat, gasping for air. A misty essence begins to seep from his mouth, swirling in the air like smoke. His soul, visible now, is drawn toward the crystal, being sucked into its depths. The entire scene is mesmerizing, a testament to the raw power Geneva wields. A sick satisfaction fills up my chest. Another soul captured. Another life claimed. "No!" Silas's voice is barely a whisper now, drenched in terror. His body convulses violently, then goes limp, crumpling on top of Geneva. She groans, struggling against his dead weight, until his corpse topples to the floor beside her with a thud. I exhale a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, the tension slowly easing from my shoulders. "You've done it again, my little human," I think victoriously to myself. "You've captured the soul of the dark elf who made you a slave."
Chapter 16. Geneva. "I know you're watching," I say, my voice hoarse from exertion. My hands tremble as I clutch the crystal, Silas's body lying motionless beside me. "Just come out already." Calix materializes, and his smirk widens as he looks down at me. "Did you now?" And here I thought I was being stealthy. I try to stand, but my legs wobble beneath me. My muscles ache, and I can feel bruises forming on my skin. Calix extends a hand, his long fingers beckoning. I hesitate, eyeing his palm warily. After a moment's deliberation, I take it. His touch sends a jolt through me, electric and unsettling. "You did well," he says, pulling me to my feet with effortless strength. His voice is smooth as silk, but there's an edge to it that makes my skin prickle. I sway slightly, and he steadies me with a firm grip on my arm. "I knew you had it in you, little human." His words are both a compliment and a reminder of the task ahead. My freedom is within reach. I swallow hard, trying to ignore the way his red eyes seem to see right through me. I brush off my clothes with shaky hands, trying desperately to regain some semblance of composure. My cheek still stings from the blows, and I can feel a bruise forming. "You could have helped, you know," I say, my voice trembling slightly despite my efforts to steady it. "He slapped me twice. He could have knocked me out and—" I trail off, unable to finish the sentence. The memory is too fresh, too raw. I can still feel his hands on me, smell his rancid breath. A shudder runs through me. Calix's piercing red eyes gleam. His gaze makes me feel exposed, vulnerable. But he didn't, he says, his voice smooth and unaffected. You always say these strange little things after killing the dark elves. He pauses, a hint of a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. You handled it. That's what matters. His casual tone, as if we're discussing the weather rather than my near assault and subsequent kill, sends a chill down my spine. I wrap my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warmth of the room. Is that all that matters to you? I snap, frustration bubbling up inside me. Just completing the deal. He raises an eyebrow. You said it yourself. You would do anything for your freedom. I'm confused by your attitude. You should be thrilled by the fact you captured another soul. I open my mouth to retort, then close it again. He's right, of course. That's why I summoned him in the first place. But something has shifted, and I'm not sure I understand what's happening between us anymore. I hold out the crystal containing Silas's soul, my hand steady despite the turmoil in my mind. Here, I say, words teeming with weariness. That's 2 down. Calix eyes the crystal, his lips curving into a smirk. He doesn't take it. Not yet. Well, look who's becoming quite the soul snatcher. Just take it, I huff, shoving the crystal towards him. Isn't this what you wanted? He doesn't move to grab it. Instead, he circles me, his gaze intense. What I want, little human, is for you to understand the gravity of what you're doing. I roll my eyes, dropping my arm. Trust me, I get it. I'm damning souls for my freedom. It's not exactly a picnic. Oh! Calix stops in front of me, leaning in close. His scent fills my nostrils. And here I thought you were enjoying our little arrangement. I try to step back, but my legs collide with Silas's lifeless body. A shudder runs through me at the contact, and I stumble, my heart racing. Calix catches me before I can topple over, his grip firm on my arms. The heat of his hands seeps through my clothing. Careful now, he murmurs, his breath hot against my ear. The proximity makes me dizzy, and I can smell his distinctive scent, one that has become so familiar to me. Wouldn't want you to fall. There's a hint of amusement in his voice, as if he's enjoying my discomfort. I want to pull away, but his hold on me is unyielding, and a part of me, a part I'm not ready to acknowledge, doesn't want to move. What's going on with me? Why do I feel this way around him? I push against his chest, creating some space between us. I'm fine. And yes, I understand what I'm doing. Now can we move on? What's next? Instead of responding immediately, his eyes trail down my body, focusing on my arm. I stare at Calix, bewildered, as he gently takes my wrist. His touch sends a shiver through me, but I'm too stunned to pull away. His crimson eyes narrow, focusing on a scratch I hadn't even noticed in the chaos. What are you... I start, but my words catch in my throat as he reaches for one of Silas's silk handkerchiefs resting on his desk. With unexpected care, Calix tears a strip from the expensive fabric. Hold still, he murmurs, his voice low and oddly soothing. I watch with wide eyes as he wraps the makeshift bandage around my arm. His fingers are deft and gentle, antithetical to his true nature. The silk feels cool against my skin, a small comfort amidst the turmoil of the night. I didn't even realize I was hurt, I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Calix's lips quirk into a half smile. Adrenaline, it's quite a thing. You can survive the worst of injuries when your body is being fueled off of it. He finishes tying off the bandage, his fingers lingering for a moment longer than necessary. I swallow hard, trying to make sense of this unexpected tenderness. Why do you care? The words tumble out before I can stop them. His eyes meet mine, and for a moment, I see something flicker behind them, something almost tender. But it's gone in an instant, replaced by his usual smirk. "Can't have my little soul catcher getting infected, can I?" he quips, releasing my arm. "You've still got one more to go, remember?" I nod, still off balance from his sudden show of concern. "Right. One more." Calix steps back, creating space between us. The air feels cooler without his proximity. "You should rest," he says, his tone back to its usual businesslike cadence. "You've had quite a night." I glance at Silas's body, a cold shiver running down my spine as the reality of what I've done hits me anew. The sight of him lying there, lifeless, makes my stomach churn. "What about—" I can't even finish the sentence, my voice trailing off as I gesture weakly towards the corpse. Calix's eyes follow my gaze, and I see a flicker of understanding cross his face. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it just like before," he assures me, his tone surprisingly gentle. "And the crystal. You've earned a break." He places a hand on my shoulder, and I feel some of the tension leave my body. Despite everything, I'm grateful for his presence, for not having to deal with this mess alone. Who knew I'd be so appreciative of this demon? With a nod, I hold out my hand and show off the pulsing crystal once more. Calix takes it within his fingers and pockets it with a hum. I stand there, my heart still racing from the encounter with Silas. The silence stretches between Calix and me, thick with unspoken tension. His red eyes bore into mine, searching for something I'm not sure I understand. Finally, Calix breaks the quiet. "So, little soul snatcher," he says, his tone casual but with an unmistakable edge. "Who's the lucky winner of your final crystal?" I don't hesitate. The answer's been burning inside me since the moment I made this deal. "Miss Picket," I say, my voice firm and resolute. "She'll have that pleasure." Calix's eyebrows shoot up, approval flickering across his face. "Miss Picket? The charming proprietress of your former establishment?" "The very same." I nod, clenching my fists. "She's the reason I'm here. She's the one who sold me, who sold countless others. It's time she pays for what she's done." A slow, wicked grin spreads across Calix's face. My, aren't you full of surprises? I expected you to go after some hapless guard or another client. But Miss Picket, that's ambitious. I lift my chin, meeting his gaze steadily. "Is that a problem?" He chuckles, the sound sending a shiver down my spine. "Problem? Quite the contrary. It's delightful. But tell me, how do you plan to get to her?" Swallowing hard, I take a glimpse down at Silas's body. I'm free now. I don't have to submit to him anymore. I meet Calix's gaze head on. I don't have to submit to anyone. His eyes narrow at me, but his smile lingers. That's the spirit, my dear human. Chapter 17. Geneva. I make my way down to the human women's living quarters, somewhat numb by the murder I just committed. He deserved it, just like the drunken dark elf that came before him. And now, his soul belongs to Calix. Once I reach the living quarters, the stale air hits me like a wall, thick with the scent of unwashed bodies and despair. Pushing open the heavy door, I'm greeted by the sight of dozens of women crammed into a space far too small for comfort. Bunk beds are stacked 3 high, leaving barely enough room to walk between them. Tired eyes turn to me as I enter, curiosity mingling with wariness. "Hello, everyone," I say, my voice stronger than I feel. "Silas is dead. We're free." A ripple of disbelief runs through the room. One woman, her face gaunt and eyes hollow, shakes her head. "Don't joke about such things, Geneva. It's cruel." "I'm not joking," I insist, holding my ground. "I saw it with my own eyes. He's gone, and we don't have to stay here anymore. Another woman, younger than me with tear-stained cheeks, pipes up. But where would we go? This is all we know. I take a deep breath, scanning the room. Some faces show hope, others fear, and many simply look blank, as if they can't process what I'm saying. Has it been so long since they've known freedom? Look, I say, softening my tone. I know it's hard to believe. But if you stay here, it's only a matter of time before someone else takes Silas's place. Do you really want to risk that? A murmur runs through the group. I see a few nods, a few more shaking heads. An older woman, her hair streaked with grey, stands up. I believe you, child, and I, for one, am not staying to find out what comes next. Her words seem to break a spell. Suddenly the room is alive with movement and whispered conversations. Some women begin gathering what few possessions they have, while others remain rooted to their beds, fear evident in their eyes. As I turn to leave, a hand catches my arm. It's the young girl with tear-stained cheeks. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice barely audible. I nod, a lump forming in my throat. As I make my way out of the room, I hear the sounds of movement behind me. Some are escaping, seizing their chance at freedom. Others will stay, too afraid to venture into the unknown. Poor girls, I think to myself. They're too brainwashed by the dark elf's lies to seek a better life for themselves. I trudge along the dirt paths leading back to Pithros, my feet aching with every step. The weight of what I've done, and what I still need to do, hangs heavy on my shoulders. As I approach the city gates, I spot a caravan of carriages preparing to enter. Perfect. Slipping between two ornate coaches, I blend in with the bustling crowd as Equus lead the way into the city. The dark elf guards at the gate barely glance our way, too preoccupied with inspecting cargo to notice a lone human girl. Once inside, I weave through the familiar streets, keeping my head down. The orphanage looms before me, a grim reminder of where this all began. Taking a deep breath, I knock on the door. It swings open, revealing Miss Picket's pinched face. Her eyes widen in recognition, then narrow with fury. "Geneva, you insolent child," she hisses, grabbing my arm and yanking me inside. She then slams the door behind us. "How dare you run away from your master?" I stumble, caught off guard by her strength. "Miss Picket, Silence!" she snaps, her bony fingers digging into my skin. "Do you have any idea of the trouble you've caused? Lord Silas will be furious." A dry laugh escapes me as I shake my head. Miss Picket narrows her eyes at me before gritting her teeth. "What are you laughing about, girl? This is serious. Once Silas knows you fled, he will search far and wide until he finds you. You're his property now." Miss Picket clicks her tongue, crossing her arms over her chest. "You don't understand it, do you? You're nothing but a slave." "You're the one who doesn't understand a thing," I retort. "Silas is dead." Miss Picket blinks slowly. "What? But how?" I swallow down the knot in my throat, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my body. It's nice to see the fear in her eyes, the confusion etching its way along her features. I relish in it. "I killed him," I whisper, reaching into my pocket, making sure the crystal is still there. My last one. Miss Picket gasps before raising her hand and striking Geneva across the face. "You foolish girl, you stupid little thing. Do you have any idea what kind of horrors await you once the dark elves realise what you've done?" The old woman begins pacing the floor, ruffling her pink dress as she goes. She smells of rotten fruit and dust. She must have changed her horrendous perfume to an even more unsavoury one. Miss Picket's face contorts with fury as she launches into a tirade. "The dark elves don't tolerate human insolence. They'll hunt you down like a rabid bat, Laz." I stand there, silent and unmoving, watching her pace back and forth. She wrings her hands, clearly distraught by the news. Holding back a smile, I want to wait for her to finish her dramatics. They have eyes and ears everywhere, she hisses, her bony finger jabbing the air. You think you can just waltz back here and everything will be fine? You've signed your own death warrant. Miss Picket's words wash over me like water off my back. I've faced far worse than her empty threats. She whirls around, her beady eyes narrowing as she takes in my lack of reaction. What's wrong with you? Don't you understand the gravity of the situation? I shrug, my voice steady. I understand perfectly, Miss Picket. I just don't care. Her nostrils flare, and for a moment, I think she might explode. Instead, she lunges forward, her cold hands gripping my shoulders. She shakes me violently, her face inches from mine. You stupid, ungrateful brat, she shrieks, spittle flying from her lips. I gave you everything, a roof over your head, food in your belly, and this is how you repay me, by ruining everything? I don't flinch, even as her nails dig into my skin. You gave me nothing but misery and servitude, I reply, my voice cold. You sold me like I was a piece of meat, Miss Picket. I'm sure you still view me as such even now. You don't get to play the victim. Her eyes widen in shock, then narrow with renewed anger. You've ruined your pathetic little life, you know that. You had a chance at something, and you threw it all away. I can't help but laugh, the sound bitter and hollow. A chance at what? Being a plaything for the Dark Elves? No, Miss Picket. I've chosen my own path now. Her grip on my shoulders tightens, her knuckles turning white. You thankless little... I sigh, cutting off Miss Picket's tirade. Don't you want to know why I'm here? Her eyes narrow, suspicion replacing some of the anger. What are you talking about? You came crawling back because you have nowhere else to go. I can't help but smirk. Is that what you think? You're more delusional than I remembered. Miss Picket's face flushes an ugly shade of red. Watch your tongue, girl. You may think you're clever, but you have no idea what's coming for you. Once Silas's associates realise what happened. No one will find Silas's body, I interrupt, my voice cold and steady. And no one will find yours either, when I'm done with you. The colour drains from Miss Picket's face as my words sink in. She takes a step back, her eyes darting to the door behind me. What are you saying? I advance slowly, savouring the fear in her eyes. I'm saying that your time is up, Miss Picket. No more selling innocent girls to monsters. No more ruining lives for your own profit. She stumbles backwards, knocking over a vase. It shatters on the floor, the sound echoing through the room. You can't do this. I raised you. You raised me to be sold, I spit back. You never cared about any of us. We were just merchandise to you. Miss Picket's back hits the wall. She looks around wildly, desperate for an escape. Please, Geneva, think about what you're doing. I can help you hide from the Dark Elves. We can work together. I laugh, the sound hollow and mirthless. Work together? No, Miss Picket. I'm not here for your help. My hand slips into my pocket, fingers closing around the crystal. Miss Picket's eyes widen as she sees it, recognition and terror flooding her face. What is that? She whispers, her voice trembling. I hold up the crystal, watching it catch the dim light. This is your fate, Miss Picket, your soul's new home. Chapter 18. Geneva. I watch as terror floods Miss Picket's face, her eyes darting between me and the crystal in my hand. The sight of her fear ignites something within me, a burning desire to make her understand the pain she's caused. For so long she has destroyed countless lives. The blood on her hands runs like a waterfall. You know, Miss Picket, I start, my voice eerily calm. I've often wondered if you ever lose sleep over what you've done to us. Surely there must be some remorse in that pathetic heart of yours. She swallows hard, pressing herself against the wall. I don't know what you mean. I've only ever done what was necessary. I can't help but laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. Necessary? Was it necessary to starve us when we misbehaved? To beat us for the smallest infractions? Her eyes widen, and I can see her searching for words. I don't give her the chance. Remember little Lily? She was only 6 when you locked her in that dark closet for a whole day because she wet the bed. She cried for hours, begging to be let out. Miss Picket's lips quiver. That was discipline. It was for her own good. Her own good? I spit the words out. And what about selling us off like animals? Was that for our own good too? I don't even know what happened to Julia and Margaret. Remember them? You sold them off the same day you sold me off. I take a step closer and she flinches. You told us we owed you a debt for taking us in. A debt we never asked for a life we never chose. And your solution was to sell us to the highest bidder, to men who see us as nothing more than playthings. Miss Picket's face pales even further. You don't understand. There were expenses and I had to... Had to what? I interrupt, my voice rising. Had to strip us of our dignity, our future, our very humanity. I hold up the crystal, watching as it catches the light once more. It flickers with a familiar eeriness. Miss Picket's eyes are fixed on it, terror evident in every wrinkle of her face. Do you know what it's like, Miss Picket, to be touched by dark elves who see you as nothing more than a piece of meat? To be used and discarded like you're worthless? Her mouth opens and closes, but no words come out. I press on, relishing her discomfort. Of course you don't. You were too busy counting your coins, weren't you? Too busy planning which poor, innocent girl you'd sell next to line your pockets. Miss Picket's eyes dart around the room, searching for an escape that doesn't exist. Her fingers twist the fabric of her expensive dress. It's almost ironic. She used to dress me and the other girls in rags, while she adorned herself with jewels and the finest fabrics. Now look at she, grovelling before me. You don't understand, Geneva, she says, her voice trembling. There's a social hierarchy that needs to be maintained. The dark elves, they're powerful, they're on top, and there's no denying that. Every human on Protheka knows this. I arch an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. She takes a deep breath, seeming to gather her courage. I couldn't fight back against the system, Miss Picket explains, her words tumbling out faster now. So I found a way to benefit from it. It was the only way to survive. I nod slowly, feeling a strange mix of emotions churning inside me. Thank you for being honest, at the very least, I say, my voice soft. It's more than you've ever given us before. Miss Picket's shoulders sag with relief, but I'm not done. I take a step closer, the crystal in my hand glowing ominously. But honesty doesn't erase what you've done, I continue. It doesn't undo the pain, the fear, the loss of innocence. You still have to pay for what you've done to us. Do you realise how many girls you've condemned to death with your selfish actions? How many of us you've sold into a life of suffering? Her eyes widen in renewed terror. Please, Geneva, she begs. I did what I had to do. You would have done the same in my position. I shake my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. No, Miss Picket, I wouldn't have, because unlike you, I have a conscience. The crystal pulses in my hand, as if sensing the moment is near. Miss Picket's gaze is fixed on it, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I lean in close, savouring the fear radiating from Miss Picket. Her eyes are wide, pupils dilated in terror. I can almost hear her heart pounding from where I stand. Miss Picket, would you like to know something fun? I whisper, eyes trailing along her quivering features. There's something I haven't told anyone yet. Something that might interest you. She swallows hard, her throat bobbing. What's that? I smile, slow and predatory. You should know that I haven't been working along. I've killed 2 dark elves during my short stint at Silas's manor. And do you know how I managed to do it? Miss Picket's bottom lip trembles. I have a demon on my side. For a moment there's silence. Then Miss Picket lets out a strangled laugh, high-pitched and desperate. Sweat drips down the side of her face. That's impossible. Demons aren't real. You're lying. Am I? I tilt my head, studying her. You don't have to believe me, Miss Picket. It doesn't change the truth. Her laughter dies abruptly, replaced by a look of dawning horror. No, she whispers. No, it can't be. I show off the crystal once more. She tries to take it from out of my hand, but my reflexes are faster than hers. This isn't just some pretty bauble, it's a soul trap, and now your soul is mine to take. Miss Picket's eyes dart between my face and the crystal, panic etched into every line of her features. Please, Geneva, she begs, her voice cracking. She clasps her hands together, as if in prayer. You don't have to do this. I can change. I can make things right. Please, I can release all of the girls in this orphanage right now, right at this instant. I shake my head, unmoved by her pleas. It's too late for that. You've had years to change, to show even a shred of compassion, but you never did. I was just trying to survive, she cries out, pressing herself further against the wall. So were we, I reply coldly. The difference is, we didn't destroy lives to do it. I raise the crystal, its surface beginning to glow with an otherworldly light. Miss Picket's eyes widen impossibly further, her mouth opening in a silent scream. Goodbye, Miss Picket. Thank you for teaching me many important lessons about the cruelty of the world. I say softly. May your next life teach you the compassion you lacked in this one. Miss Picket's scream pierces the air, a shrill sound that echoes off the walls. I focus my attention on the crystal in my hand, feeling its power pulse through my fingers. The sight before me is mesmerizing. This is something I've daydreamed about, during the many times where Miss Picket's discipline has made me question my will to live. Miss Picket's hands fly to her throat, her nails digging into her skin as she claws desperately. Her eyes bulge, filled with a primal fear I've never seen before. She falls to her knees, her expensive dress pooling around her in a mockery of elegance. Help! She chokes out, her voice barely more than a rasp. Please, Geneva, don't do this. I watch, transfixed, as a silvery mist begins to seep from her mouth and nostrils. Her soul. Disgusting noises bubble out of her throat as she tries to fight the inevitable. The mist swirls in the air for a moment, before being inexorably drawn towards the crystal. I hold it steady, feeling an intense feeling of triumph as Miss Picket's soul is absorbed into its depths. The crystal thrums with power, and I can already imagine her soul screaming out perpetually while trapped in the confines of this stone. With a final rattling gasp, Miss Picket's body goes limp. She collapses to the floor with a dull thud, her eyes staring blankly at the ceiling. I can't help the smile that spreads across my face. It's over. She's gone. The woman who tormented us, who sold us like animals, who stripped us of our dignity and humanity, she's finally paid for her crimes. And I was the one who delivered her sentence.
Chapter 19. Calix. Geneva stands there, staring at the crystal in her hand, satisfaction etched on her face. The foyer is silent. I materialize in front of her, unable to contain the smirk that tugs at the corners of my mouth. Impressive, I say, my voice a low rumble. Her eyes snap up to meet mine, a spark of defiance still burning in their green depths. You've got a knack for this, little human. She scoffs, but there's a hint of a smile playing on her lips. I had a good teacher, she retorts, holding out the crystal containing Miss Picket's soul. I take it from her, my fingers brushing against hers, and I can't help but notice the shiver that runs through her at the contact. "So, what now?" she asks, her voice steady despite the turmoil I can see swirling in her eyes. I hold up the 3 crystals in my palm, a wicked grin spreading across my face. "Now, we make something beautiful," I say. I bring my hands together, the crystals clinking softly as I begin to chant under my breath. The air around us crackles with energy, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end as I call forth my power. Geneva watches, her eyes wide with awe. The crystals begin to glow, their light casting eerie shadows on the walls of the dimly lit room. I can feel the souls within them, their essence pulsing in time with my heartbeat. I weave my magic around them, binding them together, shaping them into something new. "What are you doing?" Geneva whispers, her voice barely audible over the hum of my magic. The magic reaches a crescendo, the air around us thick with power. I bring my hands together with a sharp clap, the sound echoing through the room like a thunderclap. The light from the crystals flares brightly, momentarily blinding us both. When our vision clears, I'm holding a single, intricate red amulet, the 3 crystals now fused into one. I hold it out to Geneva, the chain dangling from my fingers. She reaches out, her hand hesitating for a moment before she takes it, her fingers brushing against mine. I can see the question swirling in her eyes, but she remains silent, her gaze fixed on the amulet. "You helped me create this, little human," I purr. Geneva stares at the amulet, her eyes wide with awe. "What does it do?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't help but smirk, enjoying this moment of superiority. "It can hold one incredibly powerful soul without killing the person," I say, my voice low and steady. "A handy little trick, wouldn't you say?" Her eyes widen further, impressed. "That's amazing," she breathes, her fingers tracing the intricate design of the amulet. I reach out, plucking the amulet from her grasp. She frowns briefly at that, a small crease forming between her eyebrows. It's adorable, really. "You know," I start, my voice low and measured, "there's one more step to this process." She raises an eyebrow. "Oh, really? And what might that be?" I take a step closer, the distance between us shrinking. I can feel the heat radiating off her, the scent of her filling my senses. "It's a bit unorthodox," I say, my voice dropping to a husky whisper. Geneva tilts her head, her eyes never leaving mine. "Unorthodox? You're a demon, Calix. I think we're past unorthodox." A chuckle escapes my lips, low and rumbling. "Fair point," I concede. I reach out, my fingers brushing against her cheek. Her skin is soft, warm, and I can feel her pulse quicken under my touch. But this is something more intimate. Her breath hitches, but she doesn't pull away. Instead, she leans into my touch, her eyes searching mine. Intimate how? I lean in, my lips brushing against her ear. "We need to seal this pact, Geneva. Make it unbreakable." I pull back, my eyes locked onto hers. "And the only way to do that is to consummate it." A small gasp escapes her lips, her eyes widening slightly. But then, a slow smile spreads across her face and she laughs, a soft, melodic sound that sends a shiver down my spine. "You're serious, aren't you?" I nod, a smirk playing on my lips. "Deadly." She bites her lower lip, considering my words. Then she takes a step back, her eyes never leaving mine. "All right," she says, her voice steady and sure. "If that's what it'll take to become like you, then I'll do it." My hands grip at her waist. "Good choice, little human." "I won't be human for much longer," she whispers, before I pull her into a passionate kiss. As we pull apart, my fingers trace the neckline of her dress. Her breath hitches, but she doesn't stop me. I take that as a green light, with my hands gripping the fabric and tearing it down the middle. She gasps, her eyes widening, but there's no fear in them, only excitement. Want the exciting conclusion to this chapter? Head over to worldsofprotheka.com and use code YouTube30 for all the unabridged, delicious details. Enjoy the plot twist that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Now back to our story. I'm glad I could satisfy you. You know I love to please. What are you? She slides down onto her feet, and I realize that she's holding the amulet in her hand. Her eyes glistening, she gazes at me with a smirk. Within moments, I know what she's doing. I can feel it. She's taking my soul.
From the depths of the darkness of Protheka
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy.
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
These monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires.
demons,
Dark elves.
gods.
Minotaurs. Creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks.
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks.
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
Even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Protheka Fantasy Romance Bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Protheka at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprotheka.com. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless. Chapter 20. Geneva. I clutch the amulet tightly, my heart pounding as I watch Calix's face contort with fury. His red eyes blaze, and for a moment, I wonder if I've made a terrible mistake. "What have you done?" he snarls, his voice a low, dangerous growl that sends shivers down my spine. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. "What I had to," I reply, my voice steadier than I feel. "I'm tired of being a slave, Calix. Tired of being in debt to someone else." His eyes narrow, and I can practically feel the rage radiating off him. "So you thought trapping me was the solution? You foolish girl, do you have any idea?" "I know exactly what I'm doing," I cut him off, surprising myself with my boldness. "I want to be free, really free, and with you by my side, I can be—" Calix's expression shifts from anger to confusion, then to a grudging curiosity. "Explain," he demands, his voice still tight with barely contained fury. I loosen my grip on the amulet slightly, running my thumb over its smooth surface. "Think about it, Calix. You're powerful, more powerful than I could ever be on my own. But now, with this amulet, we're connected. We can work together." He scoffs, but I can see a flicker of interest in his eyes. "And why would I want to work with a human who just trapped me?" "Because I'm not like the others. I know how to satisfy you," I say, my voice growing stronger with each word. "And I'm not content to just survive. I want to thrive, to take control of my own destiny, and I think you do too." Calix's expression softens slightly, and I press on. "We could be unstoppable together. No more being at someone else's mercy. No more following rules we didn't make. Just us, free to do whatever we want." He's silent for a long moment, his gaze intense as he studies me. I hold my breath, waiting for his response. Finally, he speaks, his voice low and thoughtful. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, Geneva. Perhaps both." I can't help but smile at that. Maybe, but I'm also right, aren't I? I watch Calix's face intently, my heart racing as I try to gauge his reaction. His red eyes flicker with a mix of emotions, anger, frustration, and something else I can't quite place. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" he says, his voice low and dangerous. I must admit, I didn't see this coming. I grip the amulet tighter, feeling its power pulse through my fingers. That was kind of the point, I reply, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm tired of being underestimated. Calix's lips curl into a smirk, though I can still see the tension in his jaw. Clearly I made that mistake. But tell me, Geneva, what exactly do you plan to do now that you've trapped a demon? A soft breath escapes me. I want you to turn me into one of your own. I want to be a demon too. Calix raises a brow. A bold ask. I did everything you asked me to. I captured the souls. I had sex with you. I captured your soul in this amulet too, I say, holding it up. And now I want what's rightfully mine, and you're going to give it to me. Who are you to make such demands of me? He asks. My fists clench. I own your soul, Calix. You'd be smart to follow my instructions. And if I don't, he closes the distance between us. I'll find someone who'll buy this amulet off of me. I'm sure a dark elf in this city would love a prize like this. Perhaps I can give this to the King of Perthos. What do you think? My eyes crinkle up as I smile. I'm sure he'd love this little amulet. Calix clenches his jaw. You insolent creature. I watch Calix's face, reluctance and intrigue playing across his features. Finally he nods, his red eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. Very well, Geneva. You've proven yourself. Resourceful. I'll grant your wish. My heart races with anticipation as Calix begins the ritual. He moves with fluid grace, his hands tracing arcane symbols in the air. The room fills with an eerie, pulsing energy that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. This will hurt, Calix warns, his voice low and serious. Are you certain you want this? I clench my jaw, steeling myself. I've endured worse. Do it. He nods, then places his hand on my forehead. The moment his skin touches mine, a jolt of energy surges through me. It's like nothing I've ever felt before, raw power coursing through my veins, setting every nerve ending alight. I gasp, my body arching involuntarily. Calix, what's... Don't fight it, he says, his voice sounding distant through the roar in my ears. Let the change take you. The pain hits then, sharp and sudden. I cry out, my hands flying to my forehead as I feel something pushing through my skin. 2 bumps, hard and pointed, emerge from my skull. Horns! I manage to choke out, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Calix nods, his eyes never leaving mine. You're becoming one of us now. The transformation continues, relentless. My teeth ache, lengthening and sharpening into deadly fangs. I run my tongue over them, tasting blood where they've cut into my lip. This is... I start to say, but my words are cut off by another wave of pain. My fingers spasm, and I watch in fascination as my nails elongate into wicked claws. Through it all, Calix stands steady, his hand still on my forehead, anchoring me through the storm of change. His red eyes burn with an intensity I've never seen before. You're doing well, he murmurs, and despite everything, I feel a flush of pride at his words. The pain begins to subside, leaving me breathless and trembling. I flex my new claws, marvelling at their deadly sharpness. Is it done? Indeed, he replies. I can no longer call you my little human, because you're not human anymore. I smile. That's exactly what I wanted. Raw power courses through my veins. Oh, this is exhilarating, I purr, my voice deeper and more resonant than before. I can feel the strength, the potential. It's amazing. Calix raises an eyebrow, his red eyes gleaming with curiosity. And what do you plan to do with this newfound power, little demoness? I laugh, the sound rich and dark. Little? I don't think that applies anymore. I saunter towards him, revelling in the grace of my movements. As for my plans, well, why think small? Oshta is just the beginning. I want it all, Calix, every corner of Protheka. He smirks, crossing his arms. Ambitious, and how do you propose to achieve that? With you by my side, of course. The dark elves stand no chance against us, I reply, tapping the amulet around my neck. Your power, my ambition. We'll start here in Oshta, building our influence. The dark elves think they run this city? We'll show them what true power looks like. Calix's eyes narrow. And what makes you think I'll go along with this grand plan of yours? I step closer, trailing a claw along his jawline. Because you're just as hungry for power as I am, and admit it, you're curious to see what I can do. He catches my wrist, his grip firm. You're playing a dangerous game, Geneva. I've been playing dangerous games my whole life, I retort. But now, for the first time, I have the power to win. I pull my hand free, pacing the room. Think about it. We could own this city within a year. The wealthy, the corrupt, they'll all bow to us. And from there, the sky's the limit. Calix watches me, amusement apparent on his face. You've certainly embraced your demonic nature quickly. I pause, meeting his gaze. I've had nothing my entire life, Calix. Now that I have a taste of power, I intend to gorge myself on it. My eyes trail down to the bulge in his pants. And I'll gorge myself on many other things too. What do you mean by that? You'll see. Now come along, I order, leading the way out of the orphanage. We have much to see and much to do. With Calix close behind me, we walk through the streets of Parthos together. An incredible satisfaction warms me up from the inside out. I've earned this life and I crave for wealth, power, and so much more. I will not accept anything less than that.
Chapter 21. Calix. I recline on the plush chaise, my eyes lazily tracing the intricate patterns on the ceiling of our grand living room. The silence envelops me, broken only by the occasional crackle from the fireplace. It's been years since Geneva trapped my soul, a move I never saw coming. Yet here we are, residing in this opulent manor surrounded by sprawling grounds. All thanks to her hard work. A wry chuckle escapes my lips. Who would have thought? I mutter to myself, shaking my head in disbelief. The irony isn't lost on me. I, a powerful demon, bound to a former human. But Geneva, she surprised me at every turn. Not once has she forced me into anything demeaning or embarrassing. My pride remains intact, a fact I never expected when she first clasped that amulet around her neck. I run a hand through my dark hair, remembering the day she outsmarted me. Crafty little minx, I murmur, a reluctant smile tugging at my lips. Over time, it dawned upon me that she just wanted someone to stay by her side for eternity. Her parents abandoned her, the Picket woman betrayed her, and she had never known anyone who would stand by her side. That is, until I came along. Now we indulge ourselves with the best that this life has to offer. I sip on a deep red elvish wine that we've imported from Rach. On occasion we pass to and fro from the demon plane, visiting cities full of demons like ourselves. They were quite surprised to hear Geneva's story. It's rare to hear of a human who is so desperate to become a demon, forgoing all morals to achieve that goal. Most humans don't have that audacity, but Geneva has always been different from the rest. I set down my wine glass just as Geneva walked into the room. The silk dress she's wearing clings to her body like a second skin, shimmering under the soft glow of the chandelier above our heads. My eyes trace the curve of her hips, the swell of her chest, and I can feel my body responding, heat coursing through me. You look delicious, I say, my voice a low growl. Her eyes meet mine, a spark of defiance mixed with something more primal. She knows the effect she has on me, and she revels in it. And you look like you're about to drool, she retorts, a smirk playing on her lips. She walks towards me, her steps measured, confident. The scent of her, a mix of sweet and musk, fills my nostrils, making my shaft twitch. Only because I'm hungry, I say, straightening in my seat. Her breath hitches slightly, but she holds her ground. And what are you hungry for, Calix? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. She's close now, so close I can feel the heat radiating off her body. I reach out and grab her waist in my hands, holding her tight. You know what I want, Geneva, I murmur, my voice thick with desire. I can feel her shiver, her body responding to mine. She may be playing coy, but her body betrays her. And what makes you think I'm on the menu? She asks, her voice steady despite the quickening of her pulse. I can hear it, smell the rush of blood beneath her skin. I pull back, my eyes locking onto hers. Because you want this as much as I do, I say, my hand reaching up to cup her cheek. But just as I do so, she catches my wrist in my hand. You haven't been the most well-behaved recently, Calix. Oh? Just when it was getting good, huh? Find all the sordid details you can handle over at worldsofprotheka.com. Get a great deal on this and some bonus extras by using code YouTube30 at checkout. Thanks for reading.